Okay, good morning, council, staff, guests. Just double checking. I see Councillor Fitzgerald. We're just waiting for you to turn on your video. There he comes. Okay, I would like to call the meeting. Oh, there's somebody's background noise. I'd like to call the meeting to order this morning and confirm that we do have quorum. We are without Councillors Armour and Schumacher today. And there's Councillor Fitzgerald. Actually had Councillor Armour scheduled to read the land acknowledgement, so in his absence I will do that. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robinson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take actions toward real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations. So I have a resolution moved by Deputy Mayor Alcock, seconded by Councillor Wiebe. It is recommended that the General Committee meeting agenda dated Wednesday, April 27th, 2022 be adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? And that carries. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Councillor Thompson. Councillor, you're still on mute.
My clicker is not working this morning. Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, confidential report 911 for reasons of employment. That's in closed session. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing none other, just a couple of quick announcements before we go to deputations. Tomorrow is the National Day of Mourning, where the town will lower its flags to half-mast for the day. That's to remember those who've lost their lives or been injured in the workplace. So just in case people wonder why our flag's down, that's an annual occurrence. And one other note is today is Administrative Assistant Day. And so on behalf of council and our senior staff, I would like to acknowledge and thank our administrative assistant, Brenda Jones, for everything she does to keep us on track on a daily basis. So Brenda, thank you. Deputations, we have a long list, so I will remind all of those today to keep your deputations to 10 minutes or under. And we will start with the first from the Muskoka Algonquin Healthcare, Janine Vanden Heuvel. Janine, if you're there.
I am.
Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So I am from the Algonquin Family Health Team, not the hospital, just to make sure that's correct in the minutes. And Councillor Stone and I were recently in a primary care recruitment meeting. That's where I'll start. So the Muskoka and area OHT has, we're in the early days of embarking on some physician and primary care recruitment efforts. And what that means is that we're trying to recruit primary care providers, nurse practitioners, and family physicians to come and work and live and play in Muskoka. And there are several facets to that problem in its early days. But to get down to the kernel of the issue, we would like the support of the town to begin to develop some recruitment products that we can start to distribute and use on behalf of the Muskoka and area OHT in a hope to encourage new family physicians and nurse practitioners to come and work in Muskoka. Councillor Stone, do you have anything to add based on our earlier conversations and meetings?
Worship?
Absolutely.
So I don't have much to add. It's exciting. It's much needed, especially with future retirements that are about to come up. The need is growing. So I think this attraction brochure, website, whatever we're actually trying to put together in collaboration with the docs and the hospitals. Hopefully we can actually secure some new docs in town, and we need to mention that there are almost 1,400 people on the wait list, which is a whole lot of people that we know already are asking for docs, and there's probably a lot more than those. So the need is there and growing.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. And yeah, that's one kind of facet that we know right now what the wait list looks like, and then compounded by the pending retirements and the age of some of our current family physicians, and then growth in attracting new residents throughout Muskoka. I believe that it's probably not just the wait list that we're looking at as an indicator of need. Again, it is early days, and just thankful for the relationship and the ability to come here and speak. I guess the foundational issue is right now there's no budget within the Muskoka area OHT to recruit right now, and we'd like to start getting our name out there.
Okay, thanks Janine for that, and thanks Councillor Stone for initiating conversations. Without making any commitment, it seems like it will be a good fit between our economic development and marketing departments to help get this word out, but I know we will deal with it easier. But I'm just going to see there may be councillor questions for you before you go, Janine. I see Councillor Withy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Physician recruitment is a new thing for our area. We've been doing it over the years. Certainly, I support this initiative. We need more physicians. I think there's sort of a systemic issue within the province on, how many physicians they're graduating and how they sort of control those numbers. But my question is, with the what's been going on prior to this deputation, is the hospital itself involved as well? Because I know there was, my time on the hospital board over the years, there was sort of initiatives started from there as well as some funding. So maybe you can speak to the history of recruitment, because I mean it's great deputation and everything, but it's it has been going on over the years in different forms by different people. So I don't know if you can comment on the history of what that's been. And I also understand that a number of physicians who are about to retire also get out there and try to recruit themselves for people to take about that kind of effort.
Yes, thank you. So I think that historically, you're correct. There has been some effort to recruit. I think what's new here is that we're going to start attacking this as a Muskoka and area OHT. So to answer your first question, within the OHT are several healthcare and community social service agencies that are working together, including the hospital, both family health teams, and the physicians. Yes, I think you're correct in saying that historically this has been going on. I think what's different now is that the pressure is on a little bit more to be able to really recruit at a more coordinated and larger scale. Like I said before, the issue is really multifaceted. I think there's an article in the Toronto Star this morning that says it's hard for Canada to recruit physicians into primary care roles even. So this is not just an issue that we're going to be able to handle, in a small way. That's why we're doing it from an OHT perspective. And with regards to when physicians retire, sometimes they are able and willing to recruit someone to take over their practice, and sometimes not. And that's basically up to what the physician has going on in their lives at the moment, and if they're able to do that. So if we can support all the physicians in an equal manner to be able to do that, I think we'll have better results.
follow-up, please?
Yep.
Thank you, and thank you for that response. A quick question: have you struck a budget, or do you know what kind of numbers you're looking for?
Councillor Stone?
Thanks. So this deputation is to, and we have a motion later in the meeting, I believe, to discuss whether we can appoint some staff time, and it's to help create this this attraction piece, which if council approves, then we will be able to partner in that way. It's something that we can do. We can help in this way. There's not a financial ask at this point from the municipality towards this end, but right now it's just all about staff time to work on this piece. And while I have the floor, if I might, I just want to mention that it was Councillor Thompson that actually kind of spurred me on, and we've had meetings with Dr. Matthews as well. So I just wanted to mention that Councillor Thompson is, this is a piece that he started me on.
Okay, thanks for that. So I thank Councillor Stone, and I thank you as well, Councillor Thompson. Are there any other questions for Janine? Okay, so we do have it at the end of our agenda, and we will be discussing how we can help out.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day. Okay, our second deputation are Stephen Watt and Mike Perron with regard to a road closure at 280 Hoodstown Road. Gentlemen, welcome.
Good morning, Your Worship, members of Council Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak very briefly to you this morning. My name is Stephen Watt, and I'm a municipal lawyer, and I'm assisting Paula and Mike Perron, who are ratepayers of yours at 280 Hoodstown Road. And this is an item that's coming up a bit later in your agenda, item 6.1.5. There's a staff report from Jessica Boys recommending that Mr. and Mrs. Perron's application to close the original road allowance behind their rural property be approved. And I just wanted to take the opportunity, since it was open for me to do so, just to highlight a couple of things when you get to this matter on the agenda a bit later. We're here simply to say that we support the staff recommendation to approve the application. And I would submit to you that there's really just two key questions here that, excuse me, the committee needs to consider in assessing this matter. The first one being, would a public road ever be constructed by the town at this location, which is the intersection, as you'll see when you get to the materials later, at Hoodstown Road and the north boundary of their property. And our submission, very briefly, is just that no, that'll never happen. This intersection of Hoodstown Road and the unopened road allowances is essentially a rock cliff. And, I guess, as you all know from your years on council, these road allowances were laid out in the mid-1800s by the original surveyors of this town and other towns and townships across the province. They're basically lines on a map, and there wasn't ever any regard given for the actual topography at a particular location. So here we've got a constraint, and you'll see when you get to Schedule C of Jessica's report that there's photographs depicting the steepness of it at the top right. I know you don't have it in front of you. It shows the location of the road allowance from the road itself. The second one, you'll see a picture of Mrs. Perron. Looks like she's about to rappel down this rock cliff. She's got a rope that she's tossed down there. And the third one shows a second rock outcrop further up away from the road. So when we saw those constraints, and just out of an abundance of caution, Mr. and Mrs. Perron actually retained Dan Duke and Duke Engineering to do a brief engineering report. And he went out and looked at this property and came away with an engineering perspective that supports what the photos actually show, which is that and that appears in the materials as well at Schedule F, if and when you get there. But he then came up with a sort of draft plan to consider what would be required in order to meet the town's standards to construct a road for 500 meters, given the reality of this rock cliff. And the conclusion that he, without getting into it unduly, the conclusion he came up with was twofold at least. One was that it was going to cost in the neighborhood of $1.7 million to construct 500 meters of road if you were to do this. And the second part of that, which is interesting to me as well, is that he concludes that regardless of the design, you still would have to purchase private lands beyond the 66 feet in order to accommodate it because of all the cut and fill that would be required there, whether it be rock or earth. And so his conclusions, as you'll see when you get there, is that it's not feasible. And in addition, as part of his site visit, he concluded that there were better, more feasible, less expensive alternatives that exist in the area of the subject road allowance. So there's other options. And I think, you know, when you read, it's just a page and a half report, and it's appended to Jessica's report, but I just wanted to highlight those 2 points, the cost and the requirement for either purchase or expropriation. So you get into another legal process there, potentially. And lastly, again, I don't want to keep you, but I had the clerk's office sent some photos that form part of your agenda, and I'm not sure how accessible those are to you. Crystal sent them out yesterday, I think. But even if you don't have them available to you right at this second, the photos were taken by me when I went out there just after the snow melted to take a look at what Mr. Duke had indicated were other road allowances that were available. And the second part, I guess the second question, part of the second question, which you would need to consider, and that is, are we depriving anybody by closing up this road allowance of access to their property? And the answer there is no, that there's, Jessica will speak to it, but there's at least 3 alternative road allowances that lead to these properties, so that nobody is losing their access. And the photos I submitted, when you get to them, you'll see the first one is actually looking back at Hoodstown Road, and it's with respect, it's flat and it's obviously in use. It actually forms part of the snowmobile trail that goes up that way. The second picture was one I took spinning around and looking further up, so I walked in a couple hundred meters, and that flat, open, in effect, accessible road allowance continues up that way indefinitely. Then the last one was just a picture that I showed, which shows a couple of days after the snow melted, the ATV tracks that are going in and out of there. So on the one hand, when you get to it, you'll see there's alternatives that are in use, and on the other one, you've got a rock face where it's going to cost $1.7 million plus the requirement of extra land to be purchased or expropriated. And it's really on that basis I just wanted to emphasize those points to you in advance of the report. All those items are in the report and certainly in the attachments, and we're very grateful for the fullness of it, and we respectfully ask you this morning to support the staff recommendation and close up this particular road allowance. So unless there are any questions, I have Mike Perron here as a co-deputant, but he's not intending on speaking unless there's something specific that anybody has for either of us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Watt. As you alluded, we have this as a report on our agenda today, but if there's any questions for either gentleman while they're here, now's the time, Council. Okay, I do not see any hands, and I think we have a full report, and we know Jessica will probably answer every question we have. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And we will get to your issue shortly. Okay, our third deputation, Dan Watson from the Huntsville Festival of the Arts. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure. I'm just going to get right to it and share my screen, so if everybody can see that. So we are, as I said, thank you very much for everybody for hosting us here and having us at this General Committee. We're here today to talk about, we're here today to talk about our 30th anniversary and some of the programming that we have coming up. So we are celebrating this year our 30th anniversary with 30 different shows and events. And today I'm here in particular to talk about some public art initiatives that we have that are very important parts of our overall programming, and in particular this year. Our public art activities are oftentimes taking place in public spaces. They're free, and they're an accessible point of contact that can spark the interest in and appreciation in the arts, which is part of our mandate. We also feel that some of these public art activities enhance, the visitor experience and Huntsville's brand as a creative community, and they contribute greatly to the cultural vibrancy of our town, both downtown and in the surrounding region. I'm reminded of Deputy Mayor Alcock came to visit Snow Village in the winter, which we consider one of our public art activities, and she brought along a friend from Vancouver who said Huntsville punches above its class in arts and culture, and I think part of the reason we do is public art activities like this. So today I'm here to ask to waive some permit fees related to some of the public art activities that we're looking to do. So the first one is the Group of 7 canoe murals. So this is an event or a project that we've been doing the past few years. It came actually out of COVID and us trying to figure out what we can do if we can't do concerts. So we worked with Jerry Lantain in 2020 to create these canoe murals on the underside of recycled canoes. And each one was celebrating the one of the Group of 7 painters. So, and at that point, it was the 100th anniversary of the Group of 7. It was a great success, very, very popular. So we did it again last year in 2021. This time we were featuring the work of Tom Thompson, and there was 6 more artists that worked with Jerry to create those. So we'd like to do that again this year to build on that success. Our proposal is from June 1st to 30th to exhibit the canoes that we had created last year in Rivermill Park. And then from June 21st to the 26th, we would have live painting in Rivermill Park as we did last year, where local artists would create and paint 7 more murals. This time they could be inspired by both the Group of 7 or Tom Thompson, whichever they feel. And then from then on, it would be exhibited in the park throughout the summer. So as I've said, we did this last year, and I think it really worked out well. And we worked, I think, well with staff. We were able to be responsive when the canoes needed to be moved. We moved them so that the grass could be maintained. In fact, I think you can talk to Colleen McDonald. I think the canoes actually helped the grass grow because they got really lush and thick under the canoes. So maybe we should move them around maybe, and it'll help the grass all over the Rivermill Park. But it is built to be transportable, durable, and it's a point where we saw lots of different traffic down there. Tourists coming down to visit and look and take photos. So we would like to do it again. The second project that we're looking to do is Karine's Welly Garden. So this, again, is something that we did last year. And I think most of the council remembers Karine Burns, who was a really, really important person in the local arts community. She was a longtime HFA member, board member, and she really believed in this kind of work, what she called the festival fringe programming. So that is, experiences and projects that take place in unconventional places and public spaces and really sort of outside the norm of your traditional concert going experience. So in her hometown, they have something called the Welly Garden, which are painted wellies, and people plant flowers in them in remembrance of those who have passed. And so in 2016, when she passed away, local community members Catherine Cole and Kirsty Williamson, along with lots of different people that loved Karine, created this Welly garden. And we featured it last year as part of the art crawl in Rivermill Park around the pergola area. So you can see on the picture there around the rocks and that sort of area. So and it was a nice splash of color. We provided the flowers and we maintained them with volunteers and staff. And we worked with town staff to do that. And so we'd love to be able to do that again as well. This would be included in our Huntsville art crawl, which happens throughout June, but then to be able to live on into the fall, or as long as the flowers last, really. And the final piece that we are hoping to feature is the piano in front of Algonquin Theatre. So this, we've done this for a number of years where we commission a local artist to paint a piano. Then we place the piano in front of the Algonquin Theatre and under a canopy structure to protect it as much as we can from the elements. And it's there as an invitation to visitors and those passing by to play. It's called Play Me, I'm All Yours. And so I had to ask my predecessor, Rob Saunders, how long we've been doing that. He believes it's over a decade that we've been having this piano in front of the Algonquin Theatre. We haven't done it the past 2 years because of COVID, and there was a concern about, transmission. Given now our understanding about how COVID's transmitted and the numbers, especially in the summer, we feel there's not as the same concern, and we are hoping that we can bring it back to in front of Algonquin Theatre. It's a really great initiative that is it sparks interest in the arts, like all of ours, and it draws its placement in front of the Algonquin Theatre draws attention and recognition to that building. We found that people will then come inside. They'll visit the gallery, which benefits the Huntsville Art Society. They'll look at our programming. They'll look at the programming of your other renters. And so it's ultimately that's also a benefit to the town of Huntsville because it can generate revenue. And so we're hoping that we can do that again. It would be from May 20th to September 30th. And this year, we've asked two young artists, Natasha and Naomi Banks, to paint the piano. Design is still to be decided, but it will have something to do with our 30th anniversary, and we hope that we can do it. So all that to say, this is part of a bigger 30th anniversary celebration. This is our calendar. And we're really excited about this, and we just want to say that we're really thankful for the partnership that we have with the town of Huntsville. In so many respects, it's a really important one to us, and I think it's a one that that is a model for how arts organizations and municipalities can work together. A couple things I want to point out is that HFA carries a $5 million general liability insurance with the town of Huntsville named, and that's through Withy Insurance, so we know it's a good policy. We also have been collaborating with town staff who have indicated no kind of major concerns around this and why these projects would not be successful. As I said, these are all projects that have been done in the past and can be done again. Just want to say, yeah, this is part of our 30th anniversary. Not only are we doing, as an aside, we're doing those projects, we're also thrilled to be really back in the Algonquin Theatre, which we haven't really been in the summer over the past 2 years. We're doing 22 different shows in the Algonquin Theatre between July and August. So that's a significant return in addition to all the shows that we do outside. We even have a show there tonight. So it's really wonderful to be back, and we look forward to working with the town, and hopefully we can do these projects this summer. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Dan. And I think there will be questions. I see the hands flying, so I will start with Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Dan. It's more of a comment. I just want to say thank you for all of the work that you and the festival do for our town. I'm absolutely supportive of your request today. I think the 3 installations that you've talked about are just part of the reason why, as my friend from Vancouver said, I truly believe these are the things that makes Huntsville punch above its weight. Well, all of the things the festival does, and you're a very big part of that. So thank you, and I will definitely support the request.
Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the presentation, Dan. And I love that expression, punching above our weight. I guess I've always felt that, I think, in our arts community, and but that's a great way to describe, I guess, the arts community we have in this town, in this area. I've always felt that, and now I have an expression that I can use when I'm talking about our arts community in Huntsville. We really do punch above our weight. But Dan, I like Deputy Mayor Alcock. I'm totally in support of these initiatives. I think they're great. The other comment I have, I guess I'm having trouble believing it's been 30 years since the inauguration of the Festival of the Arts, and how it's grown from, those early days at Grandview and so on and so forth to what we have today. So thank you for what you do, and keep up the great work. And I'm in support of what you're doing here this year. Thanks a lot.
Councillor Withy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Dan, for the insurance plug. I wasn't expecting that. I'm not sure if I should be declaring conflict. But I certainly support everything you guys do. I think you do a fabulous job for our community, and you run into people that come to our town from even a few years ago. I remember running into a couple from Parry Sound who said that they regularly drive to Huntsville just to see what we've got going on, and I don't drive to Parry Sound to see what's going on there. So I think this is a great, you do great work. So whether I declare conflict or not, I don't know. But thanks for everything you do.
Councillor Weeb.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I'm just in support. I think that there was some hesitation about taking up space in the park with the canoes when it first came up, but I think it's actually had the opposite effect. It's done more to bring in to the crowds and to make it more usable. So kudos on that. I think you've taken the festival to the next level, so I applaud you for your efforts. And I think we're starting to hear a theme with the punching above our weight for the piano painting. Just something to think about.
Okay. Dan, thank you. I think you can be confident that you have a lot of support around the table. I think, as Councillor Weeb said, the first time you put the canoes in the park, we were a little worried about the space, but my understanding is you worked with staff all the time for whenever they had to be moved for events. I'm thinking this year we might have more larger events, but I want to thank the festival and yourself for the things that you do, especially the free things you do for the community. That's a benefit to everybody. And I think any way we can help with that, we absolutely should. I also just want to take a second to thank you for how much you did through COVID in order to keep a little bit of culture and the performances at the fairgrounds going. People raved about that stuff. So kudos to you and your organization for getting us through COVID and having the 30th anniversary to celebrate.
Thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing all of you this summer. It's going to be a good one.
Have a good day, Dan.
You too.
Okay, our next deputation is Colleen Kennedy from Safe Quiet Lakes. And I think Colleen has a PowerPoint as well. Is Colleen here? And I do not see, Natalie?
Yeah, good morning. Sorry, Rob Bossamworth is here to represent Safe Quiet Lakes today.
Okay, thanks. Hi, Rob, welcome. Sorry, I did not realize my script said Colleen, so
That's all right, Your Worship. Colleen, somehow I ended up today, and I'm happy to be here because I've not done Huntsville before. Although I certainly do drive to Huntsville for your cultural events, as I was listening to that previous case. There's another town I don't drive to, and it starts with B for cultural events, but and it's closer to where I am. So congratulations on your town having such terrific cultural draw. It really is an important industry, and any town that figures that out is way ahead. So I'm here on behalf of the Safe Quiet Lakes Board, and I want to thank your worship and councillors for your time today. I will be sharing my screen. Can I do that down below here? Yeah. Just make sure I get this going right. I don't know if you got this presentation in your package or not, and if not, I can send it over if you want to have a copy, but let me go through it. So this is not the first time we've presented to your council, and then I want to thank you because you are one of our sponsors, and you get recognized so on our website, and you've done that by giving us money, so thank you. I guess I should start off by saying I've been a lifelong cottager in Muskoka right from the beginning of my life, and my family's been cottaging in Muskoka since the 1880s in the same place. So I have a very deep connection with our cottage country. I also am on obviously on the board of Safe Quiet Lakes, but I also have interest in development in Muskoka, and I'm on the committee of adjustment for the township of Muskoka Lakes. Who's Safe Quiet Lakes? And I think everybody knows who we are. We're a group of people who are trying to influence behavior of people around their lakes so that we can all enjoy it. And we mean all stakeholders. We mean visitors, property owners, permanent residents, seasonal residents, anybody who enjoys coming to Muskoka. Obviously, safe and quiet are in our name, but we were just looking for respectful use of our lakes. This is our boaters code. It's up all over Muskoka. I don't know how many hundreds of them we have. I know we have them in Huntsville. We probably have them on some of your boat launches. And if you don't have them, we'd be happy to arrange them for you. And we've done that for a long time now. We've been in existence since I think it's 2011. So this is just the boaters code. It just sets expectations of how we all should behave on the water, but also, if you read it, it leaves lots of room for having fun. So the survey, this is our third.
Rob, sorry to interrupt, but your slides are not moving with you. So just so you know that we're still on slide 1.
You can see slide 1?
Yeah, we can just see your title slide. It hasn't moved yet. So just so you know that.
Well, anybody know how to fix that? Well, let me stop sharing and reshare, see what happens.
Crystal, have you got some advice?
Yes, Rob, when you go to share your screen, just make sure you're selecting the screen and not the document or the PowerPoint itself.
Okay. What are you seeing now?
Now we're good, I think.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Your Worship. All right. So yeah, next. Hold on. Now it doesn't want to change. There we go. All right. So we did our third survey last summer. We decided that we would expand the geography that we're doing it is, and you can see in the chart down there, we reached into Georgian Bay. We work with the Georgian Bay Association. We obviously get a large number from the 3 big lakes in Muskoka, but you can see, 30% of our respondents come from all the lakes and rivers around Muskoka. And we also have lots of people who participated outside our district. There are almost 6,000 respondees, over 200 pages of comments, and they're all really very interesting. We use a professional research firm to do this, and there was hundreds of hours put in to make this happen. It is basically, it is a document where you can figure out what the sentiments of lake users are in our area. So key messages. To no surprise, people love our lakes. They want them preserved. The big issues are noise and traffic. We see there's some trends I'll talk about in a minute. And there's also a growing frustration with the level of noise and activity on our lakes. To no surprise, 90% of the people think we all have a shared responsibility to preserve the natural state of our lakes. But interestingly enough, whether you own a boat or not, and clearly, everybody does, they also agree that motor operators have higher degree of responsibility for ensuring that we preserve the nature. So I think there's a general recognition that boating can be a very impactful activity on the lake. So what are the problems? They come in three flavors: safety, and the main issues on safety are speed and following the rules of being too close to shore. If you get down to the details, unwanted noise. I think the highest rater issue on outwanted noise is PWCs. The next one is probably loud speakers, and then the third one is loud boats. And then, of course, the growing concern is wakes. And as that industry transitioned from wakeboarding to wake surfing, the problem of waves and how they can be destructive both to property, humans, and nature is just a growing problem. And frankly, it's a growing problem across North America. Some of the trends here. No surprise, particularly in the era of COVID, there's been a very significant increase in the boat traffic on our lakes. But it has been 4 years since we did the last one, and only 2 of them had pandemics in them. So wasn't just the pandemic. Disturbingly, 52% feel that the level of safety has gone down. And the overall experience is trending down. This is not good to see. Below that, it's interesting that the use of boats is changing quite significantly, and paddles and paddle boards and human-driven craft are up significantly. So you can see it's up to 52% of all respondents this time from 32%. And the tow industry is a smaller percentage. There's a trend to larger boats, and then there's another interesting point. We didn't ask any questions about land development, but a lot of the comments came in and said increasing land development is causing the deterioration of our experience of the lake. So, Council, if keep that in mind when you're thinking about your official plan and bylaws and things coming to your committee of adjustment. So in chart form, this is what it looks like. 78% want increased education and communication, and that's up by 15 points. 71% want no wake zones. So this is in line with the problem with the wake surfing industry. 71% want established minimum distance to shore for water sports. 70% want stronger enforcement of boating while under the influence, although I know because I work closely with the OPP, that is sort of one of the number one things they focus on, but people still want more. And more than 2/3, 67% want the illegal above water exhausts enforced, or taking enforcement against them. And 2/3 want a decibel limit put it on noise. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. This is historically, this is what Safe Quiet Lakes has been about right from the beginning. We believe that grassroots change is the way to make changes. Enforcement is an option and it's necessary, but if you really want to make permanent lasting change, you've got to do it through these kinds of outreach and education. And we have a lot of programs that we do that I'll talk about in the next. Advocacy and research. Our major advocacy action at the moment is the Decibel Coalition, and I'll talk to that because I'm ahead of it. I can talk your ear off, but I won't. And then, of course, we build partnerships. I think that's what I'm doing right now. We work very closely with all the municipalities in Muskoka. We work with the police. We work with voting lake associations. We will work with the national and provincial voting organizations. We do a lot. So what, 2021, a little bit different year than normal because of COVID, but we continue to do what the bases are our core of our outreach program. And that is we put up signs and we help the municipalities with that. We have a renter's card that we give to the rental agencies. So this is a card that the agencies give to the people who are renting that sets expectations about how they should behave. We have, when we send out our newsletter, it's going to over 4,000 people. We've updated our website. We've embraced the new Zoom world. We had some webinars in both 2020 and 21, and they were very successful. We held our 10th annual stakeholders meeting by webinar and had more people attend that than they actually attend in person. And we get media coverage, frequently in the local press, whether it's radio or television or print and online, of course. So the two projects I'm going to tell you about. This is a Wakes and Speech project. We started in 2020. And this is trying to get the behavior change, find out what we could do to get behavior change when people are speeding or not speeding, but driving their boats so that it creates a huge amount of wake too close to shore. And so we started this project in Mirror Lake in the Indian River. And the team got together, they surveyed everybody around the lake to get a baseline on their feelings. Then for 2 years now, we've put in, we had no wake boys, and these were all carefully done in coordination with Transport Canada to make sure that they were legal. We worked with the Township of Muskoka Lakes to get to put up the 9-kilometer signs because that's a municipal responsibility. We can help your township with that as well if you like. And we also distributed probably a couple of hundred no wake signs have been deployed, and we're getting requests for that sign from all over Ontario, Frank. What we found was that we've actually got year over year, we got a 20% reduction in the frequency of speeding through these areas. So we also put up a radar sign where the MLA has a radar sign and we put that up. So, it does make a difference. And we're happy to see that 20% is not insignificant. So my project, the Decibel Coalition, we started this 2 years ago, and as you are well aware, the jurisdiction of the waterways is a federal one. So the only way you're going to get the ear of Transport Canada is if you are a national organization. So we created the National Decibel Coalition. We've worked very hard for 2 years. Now we're at a very critical point. We have over 65 member associations from BC to Quebec. They represent over their members represent over 95,000 members. We have 9 municipalities. Fortunately, Huntsville is not one of them, but that's okay. You can still help us. The problem is very simple, that the current regulation on boat mufflers is not enforceable. It's too expensive, too hard for the police to enforce and make it stick in court. Canada is behind the US and Europe, who both have extensive legislation with decibel limits on their mufflers. Thankfully, Transport Canada has seen this as a problem. They are now actively engaged, as are we. They've got a portal called Let's Talk. And Frank, tomorrow they're having another Canadian Marine Advisory Council where we're discussing this public. So this is part of their formal review process. We are very active. There's over 400 people have commented on the Let's Talk page, and since it's been open for about a month. It's got a month to go. We are asking municipalities, police, and associations to make a submission. If your council would consider making a submission, I'd be happy to talk about that as well. Basically, it's a submission that says, look, we think the current legislations don't work and they're ineffective and it's affecting our constituency, and we'd like you to put some decibel limits in. We are also meeting with politicians from across the country, particularly those who are on the transport board, to make sure that this happen. I'm quite convinced we will get there. It is such a logical thing to do. It's a shame we haven't had it done before. So let me wrap up here. We have, I believe we've worked with the town before. We would like to work with you more if you can, if you want. We can help us expand with our message. We can, if you want more of the voter code signs for your public boat launches, we can help there. There's lots of opportunity to expand the wake project. If you've got areas in the town where you've got significant wake problems, we've gained quite a bit of experience on how you can mitigate some of that. As I just suggested, you could, if you want, I can send you a draft submission that you could send to Transport Canada on our behalf. And then consider what you've heard from this and what you've seen from our survey when thinking about your planning policies. So let me just stop there and open it up for questions. Oh, by the way, the survey's available. The full survey is available on our website. It's quite interesting reading.
Okay, thank you, Rob. And I see lots of hands again. I'll start with Deputy Mayor Outlaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe Councillor Stone was before me, but I'm going ahead anyway. And thank you, Rob, for your presentation. One, I just want to say I would absolutely support the letter of support from the municipality with respect to the Decibel project. That seems like a worthy and great undertaking. So I think it would be useful if we could get a draft copy of that letter.
I'll do that.
Would be good. And I do have a quick question, and that is, in the survey results, did you find the response consistent across the board throughout the district on things like wake or even decibel? I would assume that some of the concerns would be higher in the Muskoka Lakes, but maybe I'm wrong. And I'd be curious to know what the response is there.
The trends, we can only do the trends for Muskoka Lakes, because the first two surveys were only done in the Muskoka Lakes area. So some of those trends I was talking about that relate only to Muskoka Lakes, because we didn't have the baseline for the larger areas like Georgian Bay. But generally speaking, I think it's fair to say that it's quite consistent. Clearly, some of the issues like noise are going to depend on lake size. We don't ask the question, the size of lake. So when 67% say they want decibel limits, my belief is that's only for those who actually have loud noises. And if you took out of the denominator all the small lakes that don't have any big boats, you'd find that 67% is probably more like 80 or 90%. But generally, it doesn't seem to matter where you go. Certainly, all those things around respect and values, they're very consistent regardless of which lake you're on.
Councillor Stone.
Thanks very much. Thanks for the presentation. Great information. Two things, and I hope staff are listening. I definitely like some help with the no wake issues in some of our rivers and small lakes here in town. So I hope staff will follow up with you on that for sure. My question to you is about short-term rentals. You mentioned a renter's card, and short-term rentals are a big issue with our neighbors and our lakes. And is your card in all of our short-term rentals on the water?
Councillor Stone, I'm sorry. I'm not close to that project. I don't know. But if your staff wanted to, we could easily check through. I could talk to the person on our committee that's responsible for that, and I guess if they could work, we work through Ms. Corey. Very well.
That'd be wonderful. Thanks.
Councillor Withy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was hoping to go ahead of Nancy, but you know how she is. But anyway, that's a great presentation, Rob. One of the things that when I was on council in 2010 to 14, we talked about the wake issue in particular, and the emergence of these wake boats and people surfing behind them. One of the things we discussed was perhaps directing people on a particular lake to do their wake surfing along shorelines that have rock right down to the water's edge, and directing them away from more sensitive areas where there might be loons nesting and things like that. And we looked at Mary Lake in particular, and if you looked at a diagram or a picture of the lake, and maybe something that you can incorporate in signage at boat launches, whatever, that just sort of outline the lake and say, this is the area. If you're going to do this kind of thing, please consider this area rather than this area. I thought that was an interesting way to perhaps look at this, and you could do it for any lake that you've got, because we've all got pictures of them or drawings of them that you could identify areas on the lake where definitely wakes should be avoided, or wakes. Anyway, just a thought. I like your logo. You've got a headphones or ear protection on a loon, which is like the loudest bird out there, which we all like to hear. But the irony wasn't lost on me there. Thanks.
Councillor, thank you for that suggestion. I'd not thought about actually recommending wake surfing along rock shorelines. There is a very significant movement happening across North America. We're working with some organizations in the United States where they're already starting. In the U.S., it's a state jurisdiction over the water. In a lot of cases is with the state. So the state can go in and do things like that. In Canada, we have to, generally speaking, do it nationally. And I think ultimately, and it'll take a number of years, this will be a multiple year project. I think ultimately we are going to see recommended tow sport zones in lakes. I think that is certainly one solution. I hadn't thought about having it close to a shore that's a rocky shore. The general sense is should be out in the middle of the lake and nowhere else.
Quick follow-up, if I might, Your Worship.
Okay.
I agree with you. Middle of the lake is better, but the operators tend to look for calmer waters, so tend to try to find places closer to shore and small bays, what have you. So anyway,
that's the problem. They get into these nice quiet bays and create huge wakes and destroy it for everybody. When they do go out in the middle of the lake, nobody even knows they're there.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Weeb.
Thank you, Worship. My line of questioning was on that. I recognize that teenagers and tacky tourists they want to create wakes. They want to go and have fun and make noise and create big wakes and jump over them. But how do we direct them away, or at least highlight zones that are more conducive to that? I'm hoping that any of our public launches do have all the signage up, because I think your boaters code and that sign is really great, really effective. And if we are missing any, hope our staff are listening and we can get those up. And I also really like the thread that Bob Stone had started, where maybe all of our waterfront STRs should have within their package, when you apply, your card saying, if you're going onto the water, here's a few things to consider. So thanks for that. I think lots of progress has been made, more to come, but keep up the great work. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks very much for your attention, and thank you for your financial support. That's most appreciated.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Our staff will be in touch to follow up on some of the items we've talked about today.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Okay, council, we have one final deputation, and that is Kelly Ebbs from the Muskoka North Good Food Co-op. And I just saw Kelly signing in, I think, so. Morning, Kelly.
Hi guys, how are you?
Good.
Awesome.
Are you going to do a PowerPoint?
I am. I'm sorry. I only received this link to this meeting 5 seconds ago. So do I have to load it up onto my end?
Hang on, we'll see whether Crystal or Natalie are here.
Okay. I can try. Not exactly sure how to.
We have it in our package, but the public won't be able to see what we see.
True. Okay. It would be nice to show it.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it somehow.
Crystal?
I would be happy to do it. I would just need a moment to find it as well.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome.
So Kelly, while we're looking for the presentation to put up, if you want to do any kind of a preamble for council, you're welcome to. And Crystal,
okay.
Not.
Absolutely. So I'm here today just really on request from Nancy after an original phone call that we had. I'm always trying to keep Nancy up to date with the kind of progress and new things that are happening within the co-op, especially when they're fairly significant growth pieces. So I don't know if I need to familiarize any of you with the food co-op, but essentially we are in our 4th year of operations right now at White Crescent Road in the West End. And we are, through the last couple of years of COVID, it's actually been quite good for us. But like most grocery stores, we've done well because well, we all know the reasons why. People are cooking more at home, not going out as much, and really harnessing their health and well-being more so than now than ever. So we received, oh, thank you. That's great. We received recently a combination of fairly substantial grants. One of them I can tell you is from Ontario Trillium Foundation. The other one I am not yet allowed to make it public. However, it's over $550,000 in grant money to embark in a project that we have been feeling is very needed and significant for our community around food production and sustainability, as well as security. So again, not getting too deep into the whole food chain issues that we've been seeing over the last decade, really. But we are really seeing a very large concern in our food distribution networks, especially food that is coming from the States. And we thought it might be time to try and figure out a project that we can create that will eliminate some of our need to have to procure fresh produce from the United States, mostly through the winter, but all year really. So we received a grant to, I wonder if I can, I'm not sure I can control this slideshow here. There we go. To purchase 2 growing units that are self-contained modular growing containers. They, you know, if you want to picture it, there's some photographs here. If we can show the slideshow. None of my, okay. Am I able to control this? Maybe not. Okay, it's okay. So you can see here in this image, there's a picture of what the containers look like, but essentially they are 10 by 40 foot steel containers that are fabricated for us. they are skinned however we want them to. So the one that you just saw in the picture was a First Nations community, I think in Manitoba, who has one in their community to produce fresh greens. So we were able to secure the production of 2 of them for Huntsville. And they are incredibly significant in their production. They will, we can harvest over 500 heads of whatever we're growing per week out of this unit. So when we consider how much that would be saving us from having to procure from California, say through the winter time, it's pretty significant. There's a really nice picture of butterhead lettuce that is being grown in one of them. So these units are self-contained. They require electrical hookup. Water hookup is ideal, but they actually have water storage container in them as well. So if there isn't running water, we can use a tanker truck to reload that every 6 to 8 weeks. And it is an incredible opportunity for our community to ensure that we have access to this kind of good, clean, super nutrient dense, healthy food 12 months of the year in our community. And we got 2 of them. So we are now in the process of having them manufactured. They are manufactured in Manitoba. It's an Ontario-based company. The second unit that we have is actually not a growing unit like the ones you see in the images. It is actually a marketing and food processing unit, which is really essential, obviously, for keeping the supply safe and not having to remove the product from the growing unit to a secondary location to do the processing, whether it's packaging or cleaning it up or whatever. So it all gets done right there in the same 2 units. And that market unit will also act as an actual market that people can walk into and purchase greens that are being grown right in there, but also purchase a small variety of other things like you would see in our food co-op that would all be locally produced product. So we are looking at using it as most efficiently as possible. So that would mean that we would be really focusing on several varieties of lettuces and greens, plus fresh herbs. I already have restaurants asking me for product in our town. So I really feel like we have marketing the product that we can't sell through the co-op, which we would never be able to sell 500 heads of lettuce through the food co-op in a week, would mean that a lot of this product is going to end up in the hands of our local chefs and restaurants, as well as possibly even some of our grocery stores in town, which would be really, really amazing to see in a mainstream conventional grocery market, to see locally produced food coming from the co-op 12 months of the year. We are going to be able to create some really great, meaningful employment through this opportunity. And I really feel like this is just a stepping stone to continuing to add on to the main market unit. We can actually add 4 of these growing units to one market unit. So it would end up becoming a square, if you can imagine it, in a lot somewhere. And it has the potential to really produce enough food for our entire town eventually, when it comes to fresh greens and things like that 12 months of the year. So we could be really, really decreasing our reliance on importing food from California as we move into the future. I know that our main funder, is also really excited about the potential of this being, working as a pilot project to see how we can increase and build more capacity in our community through the years. So it's really exciting. Right now, we are in the stages of trying to find a very, very good, safe, centralized location to place these units. We're not, because there's such a focal point type project. We would really like them to be in a more focal point type place in our community, so that more people will understand where the food's coming from, but also really be able to engage in the whole process. We hope to have schools involved and community members involved as much as possible as well. So we're looking for, actively looking for space for this. We've been speaking with some landowners around town. I spoke with Nancy about potentially speaking about the access of some municipal land, and really we're wide open right now to where this is going to go or where it can go. But thought that it might be a good idea to present to the town what this project is about, and maybe there are some ideas that some of you have that could really lend itself to putting this in a really positive place for a community to make the best use of it. I'm happy to answer any questions about them. Timeline wise, they should be ready to install by August of this summer. And you know, like I said, we've also been talking to some private landowners, in which case we would likely need to make an application to you to have a permit to place it there. So this is also a good reason for us to be presenting this now, just so that there's some, you know, some knowledge around the project prior to any applications coming in the future.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. We'll go to questions first. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Kelly. What an exciting idea. And man, I couldn't imagine anyone having a problem or being in opposition to this whole idea. It's fantastic. And I love the thought of locally grown year round and not having to wait for produce to come in from California. Love the idea. And how much space would you need? I saw the size of the units there, but then obviously you need infrastructure and so on and so forth as well. How much space would you need for both of these units?
So the way that they're structured, if you could imagine two 10 by 40 foot containers, they would be structured either in a T formation or an L formation. So it really depends on the lot or the place where we put it as to what formation would make the most sense. If you have the one market unit horizontal, you could imagine going inside and seeing doorways along the long side of a wall, and those would be the access points to the additional. So you could fit 4 doorways in that 40-foot space and have 4 containers off of the one horizontal container. If I'm not making sense to you, sorry. So it would be, you know, ideally, if we're talking about the future and any sort of growth or development on that, it would be a 40-foot by 40-foot square. And then we would need, you know, obviously land on all sides to, you know, accommodate parking or space for people to gather and sit and eat and drink. And, you know, we would really like it to be a space that, like our food co-op is, a space that the community feels is inclusive, is a gathering space, is a safe space, and lends itself to becoming another little hub of good food. So, and then of course, you know, my thoughts go crazy because I have, you know, I always have like a 10-year plan in my head. And I really do think that, you know, having enough access to maybe grow the idea of creating a more municipally supported food production space would be amazing. So if we could, that beautiful idea that Ron always had around this greenhouse that could potentially go up, if we could have a space for a commercial greenhouse, we know that nothing is better than growing food under the sun. This is a great option, an opportunity for us to grow food otherwise, but a greenhouse would be incredible. Extra arable land for community gardens or community farming would be absolutely amazing. And it would continue to grow our community's commitment to ensuring that our community has food access and wellness at its core. So that's
you're-
my thought on it, but it really a 40-foot square space is what the units need.
Could I have one more question, Your Worship, please?
You may.
Thank you. Yes, so Kelly, given your present location for the co-op, is there space there for what you're proposing?
Yes, there is. I will let you know, though, that our lease ends there in a year and a half, and we need to expand greatly, I should say. So we are actually looking at furthering our opportunities elsewhere after that point, so that we can move into a larger space, a more centralized space, and continue to grow this food cooperative movement in our town, but in a more accessible location. So that's really stops us from really entertaining the idea of putting it there, because there is quite a significant cost associated with the power hookup and the foundation that needs to get developed for the units.
Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks, Kelly, for coming in such a short notice. You know my reaction. I think this is a very exciting project, and I think I appreciate the opportunity for the town to have a role if we can. I know during our discussions, I think you were looking for possible municipal properties, and to me, as you alluded to, we had already talked about at the town the idea of having a greenhouse at Heritage Place. And so for me, I think I would personally like us to explore that opportunity, and there are several reasons why. One was the proximity to the high school, and at the time I believe there were at least 2 teachers who were really interested in developing educational programs with respect to the greenhouse at the time, and this would be awesome. You've already talked about that in your presentation. So I think that interest would still be there. And I believe it actually ticks a box on the town's strategic plan. I think also the co-op has already started relations with our local restaurant owners and where they can. And so that connection and that partnership being expanded, I think has so much merit. So on so many levels, I think this is a fantastic idea, and I hope that we can try and find something that works. To me, I think Heritage Place is an ideal location, and I believe your comment back was it would work well with the co-op as well. And having said that, even if we get to that, I'm sure there are a number of other issues that we'd have to work out, and how the lease would work and all of those things. But you have my support, and thank you for coming in.
Councillor Weeb.
Thank you, Worship. Kelly, quickly, so you said the grant's already been received and the containers are in production, and so and you're expecting them in July or August, if I got that right. But it does sound like finding a suitable location with a hookup with the proper foundation could be a challenge. So are they being made regardless if you don't have a site secured, or is that still hinging on securing a site?
Oh no, we're going to find a site. So I'm not worried about that. The cost for the electrical hookup and the building of the foundation is funded as well. So we actually don't necessarily need to have a space that already has the electrical. It just needs to have the opportunity to have it. The entire installation of them is covered in our grants, which is amazing. And so this is really just a matter of we will find a spot for them. That, I mean, it would be crazy, even if it has to be in a, I don't know, it's somewhere that no one will ever see. The point here is that we need to produce food. We would just really like it to be in a place where people can really easily access it and see it in full production. Because, I've been to some communities that have these units, and they really are electrified community hubs when they start, getting into full production. And so I just think that if we can work together to find a really, really amazing place for these, that it could be a really good opportunity for everybody.
So just to follow up, so the grant wasn't contingent on finding a sort of suitable location? Okay.
No.
Councillor Stone?
Thank you. Like everyone here, this is a brilliant thing for Huntsville. We want to be part of it for sure. Checks all the boxes. Sustainability, it's going to help climate change. There's so many things here. When we contemplate the greenhouse at MHP, I didn't envision shipping containers, which are kind of ugly. And I don't know that I'd like to have them front and center. But that being said, I definitely agree with you that it should be accessible. Love to have the students in the high school involved. I think that's brilliant. So would this not make sense for you to put it in a place where your new co-op location would be?
It would be ideal, but we don't have that location set yet. So if these have to be, if we have to find a home for these in August so that we can start our food production, then we really just need to find a place for them. And, later on, if we find a place for our new co-op that will actually have room to house these things, we could potentially move them and place them in that spot later. But right now, I think that the key is getting food growing and not really holding off too long. As far as the ugliness of the containers, I totally hear you. They are steel containers. I will say though that they are brand new. So they're not old, crappy looking containers. They're very nice looking containers. And we have the ability to skin these. So we have the ability to basically put a skin, as you know, like you see on trucks around town and things like that, that could actually really lend itself to being almost mural-like and really, really beautiful. So we do have some really great visions of how that can look. And I think that, once we come up with some drawings of what that could be skinned like, then we would bring them to council for approval or whatever, and hopefully they would be received as more an art piece and a really engaging social project. So they're not going to be ugly.
Okay. Kelly, thanks for that presentation. I know you have been speaking with some of our staff, as have I, and I think we have a resolution coming up later on that asks staff to continue to work with you to see if we can come up with a suitable piece of property. I think we realize now that the timing of it is, we can't chat about it for a long time because I guess the delivery is going to be either July or August.
Yeah, so far that's what they say, but of course everybody's supply chain issues are very real. So they may have some issues with some supplies. Well, we're hoping August.
Right. Okay. So I had a discussion with our staff as recently as yesterday, and so I know they'll be prepared to get together with you and start exploring, what kind of town-owned land we have that could possibly be used. I know you'll be exploring other options as well, but we'll work together for the next 60 days maybe and be back and see what we have.
Thank you so much. That's really, really wonderful. And yeah, hopefully we can make something work.
Okay. Thanks so much, Kelly.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Okay, Council, we are about to go into the rest of our agenda, starting with corporate services. Do we want a quick break before we do that? Let's go. It's 10:24. Let's go come back at 10:30. That work? I've seen a couple of councillors still. Councillor Withy, I'm going to turn the chair over to you now, and you can start, I guess, as soon as you see the rest of your fellow councillors back.
Is that it? Are we good now? Nope. Councillor Thompson. There he is.
Just getting some toast. Thanks.
Maybe you should get up earlier and have your breakfast before 10:30. Anyway, thanks for doing that. All right, we're on to new business. 6.1.1. The first item here is the 2021 investment report for cemetery trust funds, and there is a motion I will read. The motion is that the investment income earned on cemetery trust funds investments in the amount of $27,239 be transferred to the Cemetery Capital Reserve for the year ended December 31st, 2021. And that is moved by Mayor Terziano and Councillor Fitzgerald. So Julia, over to you.
Thank you, Chair Withy. So I do have a couple of investment reports here. I've separated them out just to separate them out by type of investment they are. So I do have quite a bit of information there, and if anybody has any questions, I'm certainly here to answer them. Just with regards to the cemetery trust fund. So generally we take the interest earned on the cemetery trust fund and we put it into offset the operating costs of the cemetery. So that's generally what we do. This year we did have a bit of investment income of about $27,000 that we're looking at, or recommending that we move into the capital reserve. And this is because in 2021, we actually saw a surplus from budget of about $50,000. So if we transferred this into reserves, it would reduce that surplus and put that money towards cemetery capital.
Thanks, Julia. Any questions, comments? One comment, Julia, I always love to see your artwork. You've got a great background there. Anyways, I've read the motion. All in favor? And that's carried. 6.1.2 is, well, the next two reports are for information only. The first one is the 2021 investment report, prudent investments. I don't know if Julie, you want to dive into that or just put it out for questions?
I can certainly put it out for questions if anybody has anything they'd like to add. It's just I just want to make sure that it just highlighted that this is confirmation that, in the opinion of the Treasurer, all investments in the prudent investment annual report are consistent with the municipal's investment policy and the town's investment plan. So that's just a requirement of the Municipal Act each year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, let's move on to the next one, which is the Corp 2022-42 2021 Annual Investment Report Legal List, another for information only. Julia?
Yep, and this one is reported, shows the investment activity for the town's legal list investments, and those right now are our bank accounts and our GICs.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Mayor Terziano.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Julia, I'm just wondering, why is it termed legal list? I don't understand that term.
Under the Municipal Act, the municipality can either invest under the legal list. So it's a very, very extensive list of investments that municipalities are allowed to invest in. So that's why it's called the legal list. It's just a term that's under the Municipal Act, but it's very specific to the type of investments, the grade of bonds, and where they originate from, that sort of thing.
Okay. Okay. 6.1.4 affordable housing rebate 2254048 Ontario Inc. 425 Highview Drive. There is a motion. that an affordable housing rebate be granted for the development charges for 2254048 Ontario Inc., 425 Highview Drive, pending confirmation the development qualifies as affordable housing under the town policy, affordable housing development charges in the amount of $76,183 in 2022 to be funded in part through the town's affordable housing reserve, $60,952, and the remainder through the municipal accommodation tax, short-term rental, MAT STR, in the amount of $15,231. And further, that in the event the development at 425 Highview Drive does not qualify for affordable housing, as per the town policy, affordable housing development charges, any amounts owing will be considered due immediately and to be paid back in full or added to the property tax roll as a priority lien. We have, the mover on this was Councillor Armour, so I need a substitute. Any volunteers? Councillor Stone was up first, and it's actually you can't because you're the seconder on this, Bob. I'll pick Councillor Fitzgerald. Sorry, Nance. Julia, please.
Thank you. Back in January, General Committee staff were directed to work with the developer and bring back a report regarding the deferral and looking at affordable housing for these fees. So in discussions with the town CBO, it is likely that this development will qualify for affordable housing. So our policy does require that the developer does have to pay the development charges, and then when we get confirmation through MPAC, then we would do the rebate. I don't think that we should change this policy because it's in there to safeguard the town, but I think there could be exceptions that could be approved by council. So staff are recommending that because we do believe that this will qualify for affordable housing. There's a desire for council to do so, that we would recommend that, as the motion said, that to not collect the charges and rebate them at the same time when they're due, so long as they qualify.
Okay, thanks. I see a couple of hands. Deputy Mayor Alcock, please.
Thank you, Chair Withy. And just a comment, I want to say thank you, Julia, for bringing this forward. I think it's good news, and I'm sure it will still qualify for the district affordable housing program. So thank you. That's great.
Mayor Terziano, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm fine with this report and the program. Couple questions just with the financing, Julia. The 60,000 in our affordable housing reserve, is that a reserve that's been there for a little while? Like, we didn't contribute actual dollars in the 2022 budget to that reserve outside of the MAP tax. Is that correct?
That's correct. So that reserve was sitting there as a residual from the way we had done it before. So that's the total balance. So once we use that fund, there won't be a reserve anymore. And then we had it in our budget that we had $10,000 each year, well, in 2022 for affordable housing. So that's why we need a budget deviation approved for that, because it will be above that. So we'll be taking that out of those reserves, those funds.
So then the second question along that is, I think we talked earlier about when we talked about retaining 100% of the MAT tax from short-term rental, we were going to put certainly a chunk of that into our affordable housing program. And we have never, ever passed a resolution to say what percentage or what lump sum we're going to put in. So now we have a reserve that's totally depleted without anything on the books as to how we're going to fund that. And I'm just wondering if we could get a report coming forward maybe next month as to options as far as how much of that short-term rental tax that we put into affordable housing.
We can certainly do that.
Great, great suggestion. Okay, I've read the motion. All those in favor? Thanks. Little delay there. Is that on my end? Anyway, that's carried. Next report, 6.1.5, report Corp number Corp 2022-37 RC/07/2021, Perrin 280 Hoodstown Road. Motion reads that the ORA application RC 07-2021 HT be approved to be closed in accordance with the original road and shore road allowance closing policy development -07, conditional on the applicants pay all survey and legal associated expenses, the sale price for the land proposed to be closed in accordance with the fees and charges bylaw as amended, survey be provided showing the original road allowance being closed as a separate part, a registered transfer deed of land and for the closed road allowance be filed with the town within 1 year from the date of this motion passing, or the motion will be considered null and void as a new application will be required. That any utility plant located on the property proposed to be closed be given an easement. The original road allowance is hereby declared a surplus to the town's needs, and the portion of the original road allowance being closed merge in title with part lot 27, concession 8, designated as part 2 on 35R 24674. Jessica, please. Oh, I'm sorry. This was this one is moved by Councillor Fitzgerald and seconded by Councillor Thompson. Jessica.
Thank you, Chair Withy. This application is with respect to the deputation this morning, and it's with respect to an original road allowance closure directly off Hoodstown Road, abutting 280 Hoodstown. The original road allowance is approximately 1.11 acres of heavily forested land, which is steep and rocky, immediately off Hoodstown and then levels out. In compliance with the policy, the applicants own the land immediately abutting. The policy only requires the neighbors immediately abutting to sign off. Unfortunately, after multiple attempts, the neighbor was not responsive. Staff also felt that some of the backlot owners, since this is directly off Hoodstown, that were not on a year-round maintained road should be circulated for comments, mainly looking at access needs. In response, there were several objections received, and they are attached to my report. However, the objections received were with respect to a potential future use and not with respect to current access requirements. In compliance with the policy, the closure would not deny any owners of their sole vehicular access. There are 3 other original road allowances in the area. I only highlighted 2 in my report, but there is actually a 3rd. And all of the backlot owners are currently accessing their lots from other locations. Due to the neighbor being unresponsive and the objections received, it is before committee today.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Stone.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask, but what's the motivation for wanting this piece?
Jessica?
So the applicants, they operate a riding ranch, and they have a barn which is located close to the original road allowance. And they were just looking to add some additional property on the other side of the barn. And I will just add that there, in accordance with the policy, there is no requirement to have a specific need as you asked.
Councillor Weed, please.
Thank you, Chair Withy. 2 things. One, could you put the map up showing where the property is again, just so we can be on the same page? And 2, do we know if any of the neighbors are using that access point just for ATV purposes, like how it's being used right now, or even if it's possible? Because my memory strikes me that it is quite steep. If I remember that spot, that it might not be usable even over an ATV. But I guess a map would just help for a moment.
Can you do that, Jessica?
I think you can see my screen now.
Yeah.
So the location of the property, I'll just zoom in. This is the area being closed, directly above or abutting the applicant's property. And there is an original road allowance here off of Hoodstown Road as well. There is an original road allowance over this way off of Buckhorn Road. And then there is a third original road allowance off of West Fox Lake Road up here, which I did not include in my report, which comes down to this property.
And so just to follow up, if I may.
Of course.
So I guess one of the typical issues would be we don't want to restrict access to any water bodies, but in fact, the southern road allowance would allow someone, should they wish, to travel to that water body.
Yes, so to answer your question, that does lead to the water body. And this water body is actually owned by that landowner.
Okay, that helps too. Thank you.
Mayor Terziano?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Jessica, if you could just leave that map there for me for a minute. My question, so the property again of the applicant is just to the bottom of the road allowance there, right? Now, what about a secondary access to the property above that? I can see it's fronting on a main road, but there's no, closing that road allowance would prevent them from getting to that property, would it not?
Are you referring to this property where my mouse is?
No, sorry, just above the property we're talking about on the screen. Yes, right there.
They are directly on the main road, on Hoodstown Road and on West Fox Lake Road.
But were they circulated for this road closing?
They
as an
were
abutting owner?
circulated.
Okay, and did they object as well, or?
They were unresponsive.
Okay, and the road allowance that you're showing to be closed, can you just show me where it starts and ends there on that map again?
So it starts here right on Hoodstown.
Right.
And then it ends here at the end of the applicant's property.
Okay, thank you for that. I think for me, my red flag that comes up is just the number of objections and having a lawyer present and having an engineering report. And I'm just thinking, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be so suspicious, but those were just the red flags that I felt. And so I guess I'm just going to ask Jessica if she's totally confident that this is all within our policy and we followed everything to a T, and this is a good severance.
Jessica?
Yes, so from a policy perspective, it does comply. It doesn't restrict anyone of their sole vehicular access. And similar thoughts would be made if any of the other road allowances we're looking at for closure, and we would note that they were being used for access and we wouldn't be closing them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Alcock?
Thank you, Chair Withey. And just a quick follow-up, Jessica. I thought great report. I'm wondering if there's any reason why those that objected feel that the alternative access points are not usable for any reason. Like they haven't, they're clearly upset about closing this one, and why they haven't considered the other ones, or it's just that they just haven't considered the other ones, if you know what I mean.
Jessica?
The objectors are using the other access points. They're just upset because, when they purchased the property, there was the 3, and now we're taking away 1, and that's the basis of the objections.
Okay, thank you. I share the mayor's concerns as well. And I guess concerning for me is the unresponsive neighbor. How do we go about contacting neighbors that aren't responsive? Do we give them time? Do we try other methods? Do we try to figure out who they are? Because I'm concerned that this gets passed and then all of a sudden the neighbor shows up and goes, what the heck? I was out of the country. I didn't know anything. Can you explain the process to contact these people and what's happened in this particular case?
Okay, so in this particular case and in all cases, it is up to the applicants to make attempts to contact them. They did provide me with a copy of their letter that they sent and that the applicants were unresponsive. I personally did not reach out to the unresponsive neighbor, as I don't in any application. But if that is your concern, I can make attempts to do so.
So does the applicant know the neighbor? Like, is it just somebody who's owned this land for 100 years and doesn't maybe even know they own it or something? Or I know I'm asking you questions that you may not have answers to, but that's my concern, is that this is going to kind of backfire.
The property is vacant land, so the owner does not live there. And I'm sorry, I don't know if the applicants know the neighbor. Okay.
Councillor Weed.
Thank you, Chair Withy. I think this is a valuable thread to follow, because unless we have confirmation that there was a conversation there, I don't know that I'm comfortable with it, because we might be having to undo the clock, or lawyers might have to undo the clock if this doesn't, if something wasn't, a T wasn't crossed or a I wasn't dotted. So I don't know if there's a rush on this, if we should put this off until we have actual confirmation that the correspondence did in fact reach that neighbor, because if it's vacant property, who knows what post box it's going to, or if they even get that mail forwarded, right? It could be a variety of things. So perhaps we need to entertain maybe putting this off for another month.
Yeah, thanks. Do you have a comment, Jessica, or should I move on?
I do have another comment. Just if we do approve this closure here at committee today, there's also the bylaw stage, which won't come forward for a few more months. And any member of the public has an opportunity to make written comments at that time.
That's after today's decision, if we go that far. Councillor Fitzgerald, please.
Thank you, Chair Withy. I tend to agree with Councillor Weeb's statement that maybe, do we need to rush into this? And I guess it also makes me question our policy about the neighbors reaching out to abutting neighbors. It doesn't seem really appropriate to me in this case anyway, where two interested parties could have interest in the said road allowance, and we have no knowledge of whether or not they are in fact contacted. So maybe we need to look at our policy a little bit more clearly and define that we need to be in receipt of correspondence from those said neighbors or adjoining neighbors. So food for thought.
Thank you. Mayor Terziano.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think Councillor Fitzgerald makes a good point as far as reaching out, but I think we could probably pass this today. It wouldn't be ratified till May's council, and then, as Jessica said, it'll be another month before the bylaw comes through, which makes it a public process. But in the meantime, between now and ratifying this, perhaps we could have Jessica reach out and get confirmation that the other owner doesn't have, or the other property doesn't have objections before it gets to our council.
Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair, and I would agree with that as well. I usually don't have a problem with this kind of process, but this one is bothering me just a little bit, I guess. And I realize there are 3 access points to the applicant's point. But anyway, it seemed to me that one access point that is being asked to being closed off, it seems to be like the shortest access point to wherever they might want to go there. So I would agree with Councillor Weeb and Mayor Terziano that maybe this should be looked at more closely. Yeah, I'm just not feeling comfortable for some reason or other with this one. So anyway, thanks.
So I'm hearing a couple things. Mayor Terziano thinks we should pass this. I'm hearing people uncomfortable. I don't know if there's appetite to bring forward a motion to defer, or should we forge ahead? I see your hand still up, Mayor Terziano. Do you want to?
Well, that was again, thanks. I mean, I'm happy to defer it for a month. I'm also fine with knowing it wouldn't be ratified for a month. I guess my question would be through Jessica. Do you anticipate that you might be able to have more information that's being asked for today in another month?
I don't believe that I will have any more information. I don't believe the neighbor will be any more responsive to myself, but I can certainly make attempts to do that.
Councillor Weed?
Thanks. I was just going to actually say that I'm happy to pass today as long as we put the efforts forward to make confirmation. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to whether it's the bylaw process or ratification at council, I'm not going to vote in favor until I hear something from the neighbor. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Okay, so what do we want to do? Mayor Terziano.
Okay, based on that comment, I would be happy to put forth a motion or amendment to defer this to the next general committee meeting, and we'll see whether we can acquire any additional information.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. I was just going to say I would second that.
Okay, do we need Crystal? Do we need you typing away? Probably. We've got our mover and seconder.
I do. Thank you, Chair Withy. Just a little bit of clarification. So I hear that we're postponing it to allow time for staff to attempt to contact the abutting non-responsive landowner. Was there any appetite to bring back any further information, or was that it?
I think that was about it. I think all the information is already there as far as where it is and the other access points, et cetera. And of course, all the other objections. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, I can pull that up for you.
Okay. Okay, we have a new motion moved by Mayor Terziano, seconded by Councillor Thompson. It is recommended that Report Corp 2020-2237 ORA application RCO 7/2021 THE, or is that just HE or HTE, be postponed to the next general committee meeting to allow time for staff to attempt to contact the abutting non-responsive landowner. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. 6.1.6, Jessica Boys, report number Corp 2022-38 RC05 2021 HTE Babineau 174 North Fox Lake Road. That application RC05 2021 HTE be approved in accordance with the ORA OSRA policy development 07, conditional on the applicant will pay all survey, legal, and associated expenses. The sale price for the land proposed to be closed in accordance with fees and charges bylaws amended. A survey in duplicate be provided showing the road allowances specific part on the plan. a registered transfer deed of land for the road allowance to be filed with the municipality within 1 year of the date of the motion approving the application, or the motion will be considered null and void, and a new application would be required. 5, that any utility plant located on the property proposed to be closed to be given an easement. 6, the road allowance is hereby declared a surplus to the town's needs. 7, each portion of the road allowance being closed merge in title with the respective lots. And on this one, we have moved by Councillor Weeb and seconded by Deputy Mayor Alcock. Jessica, please.
Thank you, Chair Withy. This is also a closure of 2 original road allowances abutting 174 and 198 North Fox Lake Road. 198 North Fox Lake Road is bisected by an unopened road allowance deviation, resulting in 2 separate parcels of land. And 174 and 198 also abut an unopened road allowance to the east. The road allowance have an area of approximately 1.6 acres. In compliance with the policy, the owners own the property directly abutting the road allowance, and the road allowance closure would not restrict any owners of their sole vehicular access. The applicants attempted to contact both abutting landowners, but was unresponsive. The abutting landowners were unresponsive, and as such, this application is before committee for a decision.
Okay, thanks. More unresponsive people. Considering what we just did, any questions, comments, plans to defer till we find people? What do people think? Mayor Terziano.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. My question, Jessica, when I'm looking at the map, I'm unsure of what piece of the road is being closed, the piece in white or the 2 pieces in dark.
You want to share your screen, Jessica?
I will share my screen, the map that was included with the report. You will see 174 in green and 198 in red. And then the abutting road allowances, I'm just moving my mouse along there, and where the arrows are pointing, those are the areas being closed.
So we're actually closing a road allowance that runs through 198?
Yes, it is a road allowance deviation.
I'm a little confused how somebody would apply to close a road allowance on somebody else's property.
Nope, the landowner owns the land on either side of the road allowance. So they're stopping here and stopping here, just as if their lot lines were extended.
But this application is from 174, correct?
And 198.
Oh, that wasn't clear to me. So the same person owns 174 and 198.
Correct.
So it's the landowners on either side of those 2 properties that haven't responded.
Correct.
Okay. The report didn't mention 198, or if it did, I see it down in the, yeah, okay. Now that's clearer. Thank you.
Jessica, sort of further to that, if I might just jump in here, by closing this, will it affect the abutting properties for access in any way?
The other abutting landowners are directly fronting on North Fox Lake Road.
Thanks. Councillor Thompson, please.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. Question through you to Jessica. Jessica, so in these applications, how common is it to not get responses from abutting landowners? Is this like a common kind of thing that we come up against? Or I realized today that we've had 2 of these applications that are here because of non-response. But how common is it to not get responses from abutting landowners? And then what do we do in most cases? Do we always bring it in front of council or in front of committee in that kind of an event?
Jessica?
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. So it is not very common. Out of the 26 applications that I received last year, I believe only 4 were unresponsive. It just happens that 2 of them are before us today. And every time the neighbor does not sign, it comes before committee.
Councillor Fitzgerald?
Thank you, Chair Withy. I guess the question from the mapping is I can't tell where those lots are accessed from the roads, you know. I've looked at the mapping and Jessica had her mapping on screen, but I don't see where people access their properties. Is it often like, is there a road that North Fox Lake Road goes down and they access off that, or are they on a private unopened road allowance? I don't understand how they access the properties. It would actually maybe change how I view this application.
Do you want to share your screen again quickly, Jessica?
Yes, I can. And if you can just clarify which properties you are wondering where they access?
So even the applicant, 174 and 198, there's 2 separate lots. How do they currently access those lots? From an extension. Go ahead.
Yeah, so 174 actually uses they actually both use the original road allowance. 174 has a home and they use that original road allowance as their driveway, and 198 is vacant, so they're not on a municipal road.
Okay, so if I may follow up, Chair Withy.
Sure.
If we close that separate 174 road allowance, and this doesn't make any sense to me if it's the same owner, they're going to lose road access, albeit it's unopened road access. I'm sure it's not very long, so it would fall within the 400 meter of opening the road up to municipal standards. They're going to lose road access to 198. This doesn't make any sense to me.
They currently don't have road access anyway. I mean, they access it through the original road allowance. I can't really speak to, future plans, but they were thinking of obtaining a parcel of land on North Fox Lake Road to add some road frontage there.
Councillor Fitzgerald?
It's a mystery to me. I don't understand.
Okay, Councillor Weed.
Thanks, Chair Withy. So the southern neighbor, 218, I think it is, that's the one that I'm kind of a little concerned about, because it looks to me like we could be in the future cutting them off completely from any road access. So is that the neighbor that's unresponsive? And if so, then once again, I don't think we proceed without hearing from them.
Jessica?
I did make attempts to contact 218. And 218 actually owns another abutting parcel of land at 386, which is on North Fox Lake Road, and that's how they access their property. But I did make attempts to contact them from an access perspective, and they were unresponsive to me.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So I appreciate the idea that if they have an abutting property, they can access it. But if they decided that the long-term plan was to sever those two parcels, we've rendered that southern portion 218 virtually worthless for them. So I'm a little, again, I'm uncomfortable with going ahead without hearing from them.
Mayor Terziano?
I was concerned about 218 as well, and I understand what you're saying about 386, but what's the property on the map below 218? There's no number on it, and it doesn't look like it's touching North Fox Lake Road anywhere. I can't see it because my map ends. If you could bring yours back up, that might help. I mean, the real one though, I guess.
Okay, just one moment.
So 218 and 386 are owned by the same person, you said? Yeah, okay.
I will share my screen again. So I am sharing the mapping, not the map included with my report, so it doesn't have the arrows for ease of reference. This is 218 and this is 386. There is also an original road allowance along here. So the lots below were not taken into consideration.
So they don't front on North Fox Lake Road, but there's a different unopened road allowance, which is their access. Which would that access not be available to 218 as well?
Yes, it would.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair Withy. I was just going to reiterate the same comments about Lot 218 and echo what Councillor Weep said. I don't know. I think it would be useful to hear from the owner of 218 and 386. I know it's the same owner. And I'm wondering if the conditions of the road access below 218 are any different from the road access going in off of Fox Lake Road. And that might factor into it too. I don't know. Maybe it's worse, maybe it's better, right? It certainly is a longer road as far as road access. So I'm now not terribly comfortable. And if we could contact the owner of 218, I think that might be really helpful if we could.
Okay, what do you have a comment, Jessica?
Yes, so last summer I did send a Pure Later package to 218 and I did not receive a response. I only have mailing addresses. I don't have any other information to contact those individuals.
Okay, so what do we want to do, Council? Do we want to pass this and see where it goes in the next parts of this, or do we want another deferral? Councillor Weeb.
Thanks, the Chair Withy. For consistency's sake, I'm going to move to defer. Maybe we can go bang a note up on a tree there. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I just think we're going to. I sense we're going to be unwinding the clock again if we don't hear something. So maybe this meeting will be the spark that does it.
Okay, now we've got the brass lighting up here. Let's start. I guess Tanya was first. Sorry, Denise.
Thank you, Chair Withy. Just a question, because Jessica has tried to get in touch with them unsuccessfully. Certainly, I guess we could put a note up on the tree or however that is. But what would committee like to see if we cannot get a hold of these people? I mean, the applications are still coming back to committee with us telling you potentially that we couldn't get a hold of them. Is that what you would like to see, or do you not want us to come back period for months until we see, or how, I guess the process from there, we're just looking for some direction.
Okay, CAO Corey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think just the reason the applications are before you today is because we do currently have a policy that that has been approved by council for staff to bring these items forward. So I think maybe a bigger discussion, whether it's a committee today or for further discussion, is to determine if you want to see that policy amended, whereby if it's required to have comment, whether it's in support or in opposition to the application. If that's something that committee would like to see, then that would certainly save these discussions as they come to committee. But just food for thought, Mr. Chairman, that they are before you today because they do comply with the existing policy, but maybe we need to look at the policy, just a note.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably not a bad idea. As far as what is in front of us today, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, further to that, Mr. Chair, and thank you, CAO Corey and Tanya as well. Do we have a timeline now from the initial attempt to contact these people, say, okay, if they don't respond within a certain amount of time, we go forward? Because in some cases, it's not fair to the applicant either. If we just, were to, keep putting these things off because, somebody is not responsive. I think in some cases, people are not responsive because they just don't care. It's not because they couldn't be contacted. So I'm just thinking that maybe, we would put a timeline on it out of fairness to both the applicant, but also to the neighbors.
Good comment. Mayor Terziano?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just for clarity, Jessica, you said you got no response from 218, but you also said 218 was owned by 386. Did you get a response from 386?
Yeah, so it's the same owner and I only reached out to 218. I believe the address is, the contact addresses for both properties were the same.
Okay. You know what, on this one, I'm actually okay because we reached out, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. On the other one, it was that the applicant was reaching out and I thought we could do a little more due diligence, but I'm okay to approve this one today. It will become public and there will be time for people to appeal before ratification.
Okay, great. So I see a thumbs up by Councillor Wiebe, who proposed deferral motion. So I'm sensing you're rescinding that. And I guess a quick comment for me would be that I think maybe we need to have our policy amended to say that we will be reaching out rather than leaving it to applicants as well, sort of thing, because as we just talked about, the prior one, we didn't reach out, and this one we did. Anyway, that's probably for a future discussion. Councillor Wiebe?
Sorry, thank you. Really quickly, I guess we'll have to revisit that and how we reach out, because as Councillor Thompson mentioned, if we say, should you have concerns, contact us, and we don't know if they didn't get it or they don't have concerns, right? So it's kind of, you could get the same result with two different thoughts. So yeah, that'll be important for us to kind of dig back into some of those details.
Yeah, maybe registered mail or something. But anyways, let's move on. So you've heard the motion. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, 6.1.7, Lisa Smith report number HR 2022-5 amendment dress code policy. And there is a motion that committee approve amendments to dress code policy HR EC 50 as attached to report HR 2022-5. And I have Councillor Stone moving this and Mayor Terziano seconding it. And Lisa, let's talk about jeans.
All right, thank you, Chair Withey. So the report before you today is, as you noted, the amendment to our dress code policy. So as a result of consultation with our senior leadership team, as well as our leadership team, the proposed changes have been outlined in the attached red line policy, and staff are seeking the adoption of these amendments.
Any comments or questions? I have to say, I'm kind of not in favor of this myself. I kind of believe in dress codes, and I believe that when we're dealing with customers, which our tax base is and our constituents are, it's always good to be presentable. The Jeans Friday policy was started as a fundraiser, and I know it sort of just evolved into Jeans Friday for not raising funds, but I'm not a fan of not having dress codes. Certainly in my office, we have a dress code, and perhaps I understand we're talking about people that maybe don't deal with the public that much, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's just my opinion. Anybody else? No, yes, no, okay. You've heard the motion, all in favor? And that's carried. All right, off of Jeans into hybrid meetings. 6.1.8 Substitution Report Corp 22-29 Amendment to Procedural Bylaw 2019-45 is amended. Hybrid meetings. The motion reads that Committee Substitutes Report Corp 2022-29 amended to Procedural Bylaw 2019-45 is amended. Hybrid meetings presented to Council on March 28, 2022 and referred to General Committee for updated Report Corp 2022-39. And we have an issue with this one. It's moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Armour, who is not here. So do I have a volunteer? Who's first? Councillor Fitzgerald was quick off the mark there. So is this, who is this? There's not a name on this one. Who's taking this one? Is that you, Tanya?
Chair Withy, this is just to substitute the motion to begin with. So if you want to call the question on this one, and if committee's good with that, then you can read the motion for the new report coming forward.
Oh, that's on the next page. All right. Okay, all in favor? This is carried. So now we move down, and there's Tanya's name on there. So now I'm getting clued in here. Report number Corp 2022-39 Amendment to Procedural Bylaw 2019-45 is amended. Hybrid meetings updated. The motion reads, Committee approved the updated draft amendment to Procedural Bylaw 2019-45 is amended and attached to Report Corp 2022-39, and further that the bylaw be presented to Council for final approval. Tanya.
Thank you, Chair Withy. I'm sorry, what, can you just repeat the mover and seconder on that one?
It's moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
So this report was presented to you on March 28th at the council meeting. At first, it was regarding having hybrid meetings as we are moving back to in-person. So to allow for some electronic participation as well as in-person at the same time. Council was concerned with the no allowance for council to Zoom in periodically should something arise. So Crystal and I went back, we looked at the bylaw, and we did some amendments to it. So if with your permission, Chair Withy, I'd like to just put it over to the Deputy Clerk and she can finish the update.
You have my permission.
Thank you, Chair Withy. Just to highlight some of the changes from when you last saw this in front of you. We did take a look at the council participating electronically. So there's still, councillors are still encouraged to participate in person when the meeting is in person. However, we did include the allowance for 3 times within a 12-month period for councillors to participate electronically. And then of course, anything above and beyond that would be the call of the mayor, the chair, and just the need to notify the clerk with that. Also the stipulation that the chair of the committee or the mayor will decide if the meeting is in person, electronic, or hybrid. And a note with that is we do need to provide notice of how the meeting is going to be conducted. So therefore we do have to make the call a few days in advance. So I know there was some comments about if the weather was bad or something like that. If the meeting is in person and we've declared it to be in person, we'd have to continue with it in that manner. So just a little bit of clarification on that as well.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair Withy. I just want to say thank you to both our clerk and our deputy clerk. I think those are good changes, and I know I went on a little bit at the last meeting about it, and so I feel somewhat responsible. And I want to say that I appreciate the response, and I think it's a really good compromise. So thank you. I support the proposed amendment.
Oh, so you went on. That's weird. Councillor, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think I like this too, Crystal and Tanya. It's up to the chair or the mayor, I guess, to determine ahead of time, but then it would be up to, I guess, the individual councillors too, to say, look, I can participate, but I have to participate, in this particular fashion. In the event that a chair or the mayor calls for a hybrid, how much Zoom, are we talking Zoom meetings, or and how much lead time would you need to set something like that up?
Who wants that?
Would you like me to jump in? Thank you. So all of our meetings that are set up will be conducted as hybrid meetings unless they're specifically in person. The reason we had it that they could be specifically in person was, for example, the meeting last night where we just didn't have the capability in the theater to hold a hybrid meeting. And if councillor was to move the meeting somewhere else, and it would have to be completely in person. But we did put in the procedural bylaw that all meetings would be hybrid should they be held in the council chambers. And with that, any members of the public could participate electronically as well. So we would need to know a little bit of in advance for council to participate electronically, but we'll be anticipating that all meetings are hybrid. So we don't need, we'd need a good 24 hours or so notice, but that would be about it.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Terziano.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just want to confirm. So we will now have the ability to have in person, solely Zoom, or hybrid. We will have the choice to have any of all three, correct?
Through you, Chair Withy, that is correct. Just with the slight stipulation, it depends on location.
Okay, and then my other question is, I think we were discussing that should we be having a hybrid meeting or a Zoom meeting, anybody who is bumped off or whatever, that is on them. We will not be pausing those meetings, correct? Once we're allowed to have in person, if we choose not to be in person, we will not be pausing or stopping meetings for internet issues. Is that correct?
Would you like me to take that one too?
Well, it's I'm not going to answer.
Thank you, Chair Withy, through you. That is correct. It is the call of the chair, but it will be all of anyone who's participating electronically will be notified that they need to, should they lose internet connection, that committee could be continuing on. So if a meeting is hybrid, the in-person still kind of takes precedent. So everyone is encouraged to attend in person, and then it's up to the chair should we lose someone due to technical difficulties.
So seeing no further hands, I just have a couple quick ones myself. So in the event that the person who's Zooming in is required for quorum, then that would probably cause a halt to the procedures, would it not? Tanya?
So we have in it that if we lose quorum, then of course, then we have to stop. If we were really thinking of planning, if we had an applicant or a representative or somebody who we lost during a public hearing. Now I know there's with the CPP, a lot of things are changing, so it might not be such a big issue, but we just felt that if that happened, it would be up to the chair to determine whether they wanted to move forward with that file. We have written it that they can without any issues, that we encourage everybody to attend in person in case that happens. So that's how we addressed it.
So, sorry, I'm just trying to understand that if quorum is lost, it's up to the chair to continue?
No, if quorum is lost, we definitely have,
over.
there's
Right.
no way to continue under that circumstance.
Okay, that's what I thought. I've got another one, but Councillor Thompson has jumped in front of me.
So, yeah, thank you. Actually, thanks for that clarification, Tanya. I was under the impression that if a meeting started with quorum and became non-quorum during the meeting, that it would proceed anyway, but I guess I was wrong on that. So thanks for that clarification. Appreciate it.
If I could add, Chair Withey, if we had 3 members in the council chambers and we had 6 members on Zoom and we lost 6 members, we would have to stop the meeting because we no longer have quorum in person. That's what we're saying.
Right. So another quick question is how does this work in real life? So is everybody just see the person zooming in on their screens, or is there going to be a giant jumbotron with the big head, like sci-fi movie, looking over everybody? Or like, will the public be able to see the person that's zooming in, etc., if there's people in the gallery? Or
I'll let the deputy clerk answer that.
Thank you, Chair Withey. When you all return to the council chambers, it will look a little bit different. Yes, we do have screens. So members of committee and staff who are in the room, if someone's participating electronically, we'll be able to see them on a screen in the council chambers. Members of the public, while we're live streaming, will see the full council chambers, as well as along the side, they'll see members who are participating electronically as well. So council chambers will look a little bit different for everybody. There are screens, many screens throughout the council chambers now, so that everyone who's present can see members participating electronically.
I was hoping it would be like Jumbo, like so sort of cower. Deputy Mayor Alcock, sorry for that.
No, that's okay. I thank you, Chair Withey. I just wanted to comment. I think the Bracebridge Council is having their first in-person council meeting tonight, and it's also on the hybrid. So maybe we can tune in and see how it goes. They're doing it in their council chambers as well. And I'm assuming, given this is all brand new territory, I certainly am not so wedded to the idea of ensuring that councillors can do this, that if it doesn't work, then clearly we need to rethink it and go back to where you originally proposed. I'm not adverse to that at all. I recognize this is a weird setup. So it'll be, I think I might actually tune in to Bracebridge tonight just to watch and see how it goes.
Okay, so I've read the motion. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And that's it for me. So back to Mayor Terziano.
Okay, thanks for that. And I'm going to hand it straight over to Councillor Weed for.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Terziano. We've got one actually in community services, and I'm going to read the motion straight away. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Alcock, seconded by Tim Withey. It is report number CS 2022-14 daycare business proposal for the Canada Summit Centre. Whereas motion number GC 31-22 called for staff to report back to committee at the April meeting with a complete proposal and lease agreement for the daycare business at the Canada Summit Centre for consideration. And whereas the owners are requiring additional time to work through the many requirements. Therefore, it is recommended that staff be directed to advise the daycare that a final proposal be submitted to staff no later than June 30th, 2022. Greg, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Weed. Just a quick update on where we're at with the daycare proposal, as we were asked to report back in April, and unfortunately, the daycare providers have not been able to get all of the components of the proposal done. So we're just asking for an extension to the end of June, when we feel we'll be able to have all the pieces brought forth and a complete proposal at least presented to council at that time. They've had some delays, which you have just getting the other businesses to assist them, starting with their architect. The architect's planning to start the work pretty much this week and hopes to have a 2-week turnaround. And then from there, that'll spawn off the chartered accountant and some other plans as the numbers of the renovations will start to come to light. So happy to answer any questions on that.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, committee recalls there were certainly quite a few requirements. I'll go to committee for any questions at this point. Seeing none, I think I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thanks. Let them know, Greg. And that's it for me. The short and sweet one. Karen, back to you.
Thanks, and off to Councillor Thompson for Public Works.
Yes, ops is what we're dealing with, your worship and everyone else. It's nice to get to the important part of the meeting with regards to this. So we are dealing with three matters. 6.3.1. This is moved by Mayor Terziano and seconded by Councillor Wiebe. And this has to do with park furniture. The resolution reads, staff be directed to implement a furniture sponsorship and dedication program to allow community members to memorialize a family member or friend, or to allow business sponsorship. And further, that corporate policy, budget, and financial 1.1 sponsorship and dedication policy be amended to include Schedule A, park furniture sponsorship and dedication program as outlined in Report Ops 2022-17. And further, that committee approved the creation of a park furniture sponsorship and dedication reserve, which will be used for the purposes of collecting funds from the plaque revenue to be used in the future for the replacement of park benches, chairs, and plaques. And further, that committee approved the amendment to Schedule D, Parks and Facility Services of the fees and charges, bylaw 2021-88 as attached, and forward to council for final approval. And Colleen will be addressing this particular one. Colleen?
Actually, Chair Thompson, it will be Tarmo actually addressing this, as Colleen is on a leave until at least the end of May. So I'll be taking this one.
Okay, thanks, Tarmo. Go ahead.
So this report's coming back based on comments and recommendations made at General Committee last month. And we continue to consult with the working group composed of councillors and staff, Councillor Armour and Mayor Terziano, and have incorporated much of the feedback that we received through that process. The biggest changes, such as they are, would include the locations, defining specifically where these park benches can be dedicated and in what kind of dedication. So memorial dedications, for example, won't happen along Main Street. However, park bench sponsorships can. We also talked about the other change will be who is responsible for replacing either furniture or dedication plaques in the event of any kind of vandalism or damage, and the replacement cycle, and how the approvals occur for that. In addition, the finance portions of this have been worked out, and it's supposed to be a self-funded program largely, where as donations come in, the donations are used to cover off the cost of plaques and replacement of furniture over time. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair Thompson.
Okay, thank you, Director Ukivi. And any questions from committee? Mayor Terziano?
Thank you, Chair Thompson. Not really a question. I just want to thank staff for getting together with Councillor Armour and myself and to sort of hammering this policy out. I think we've got a good policy here now, short of the term furniture, but I'm not sure about park furniture. I actually prefer the term chairs and benches, but I hope we don't see a couch on Main Street someday. But other than that one term, I think we've got a good policy, and I'm happy to approve it today and appreciate everybody's time in
it. No upholstery on Main Street, Your Worship. None at all, for sure. Okay, you heard the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Tarmo.
Thank you, Chair
Okay, We have 6.3.2. This is moved by Councillor Withy and seconded by Councillor Stone. I just chose you, Councillor Stone, because Councillor Armour is away, so I've appointed you here. The resolution reads, committee approves staff to enter into an agreement with the Township of Lake of Bays and the Landscapes Resort Owners Association for a term of 10 years for the purpose of increasing fire department communications capabilities in the area. And we have Fire Chief Gary Monahan with us. Chief, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Thompson. This was just, it's basically an agreement that Lake of Bays asked Huntsville to sign because of obviously with the agreement that we have with them for the fire service protection agreement. But it's very simple. If anybody has any questions, I'd certainly answer them. But I think it's no cost, so I think it's a simple report.
Okay, thanks, Chief. To committee, Councillor Stone.
Just a quick question. So we're not putting up a tower, we're attaching to somebody else's tower, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Through Chair Thompson. What it was is the Lakeland Energy put up a tower at the landscapes. We've had communication issues in Baysville for a number of years since we went to digital. So it was, we approached Lakeland and they gave us priority to put equipment on the top of the tower to get better communications, and it's now working, and our communications is a lot better now.
Perfect, thanks.
Mayor Terziano.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. And not a question, just a comment. Actually, Gary, I just wanted to congratulate you on your new position. I realize this is your first report and probably should have done it at council on Monday night, but congratulations to you and obviously to Paul as well. And I know we're in good hands and look forward to lots more of your reports.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm looking forward to continuing to serve the community, actually in a lead role now, so I'm excited. Thank you very much.
Councillor Withy.
Thank you, Chair Thompson. I actually wanted to say that as well, and I think it's great. Great to see you with all those bands on your shoulders there. That's it. Give us a good look.
There you go. I like dress uniform, as you can tell.
Yeah, you're looking sharp there, guys. So. And a good report. I especially like the fact that all the costs are borne by the Township of Lake of Bays. So keep those kind of reports coming too, where everyone else pays for everything. That'd be perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Fitzgerald.
I guess I'm the last one to congratulate Chief Monahan. You're quite a distraction to this portion of the meeting, Gary, but congratulations. And I don't know if there's a typo there. It says Deputy Fire Chief in the author, or this was authored when you were deputy, but congratulations, Gary.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Yes, all the reports that I wrote were when I was the deputy, yes.
Yeah, those epaulets look really good on your shoulders there, Gary. So congratulations too from all of us, I'm sure. You heard the question. All those in favor? And that, of course, carries. Thanks, Gary. Okay, so we're on to, I think I have one more here, do I not, Your Worship? I've lost my screen for a moment here. Well, pardon me, this is 6.3.3. Once again, Gary's back with us. This one moved by Councillor Fitzgerald and seconded by Deputy Mayor Alcock. That committee authorizes fire department staff to continue the operation of the training facility located at Station 5, that's Port Sydney, for external stakeholders at a cost recovery basis. Further, that the fire department be authorized to continue to offer Office of the Fire Marshal, that's OFM Ontario Fire College, OFC, sanctioned courses for the duration of the current 5-year agreement. And further, that staff report back to committee on the financial performance of the facility as part of the regular quarterly reports to council. And further, that the town enter into a formal agreement with other municipalities in the District of Muskoka and surrounding area for use of the training facility for locally delivered courses. And further, that the fire chief be delegated authority for approving those agreements. Gary?
Okay, thank you, Chair Thompson. we were asked to bring forward an update on the regional training center, and basically the report last year, it was a pilot project, and so it ended in 2021. But in 2021, we had a number of courses that we had to submit to the Ontario Fire College, and they are slated for 2022. So I won't go through the entire report unless we have some questions, but it's more of an update on the other thing we felt we had to do is we had to explain to committee the difference between the regional training center and the training facility, because it was confusing for a bit, but we just wanted to clarify what it is.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Any questions of Chief Monahan? And my comments on this, Gary, are congratulations. This is a great initiative for the fire department, and we're proud of our fire department and the initiatives that you take on this in this particular case. So thank you very much. So you heard the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thanks, Chief and Tarmo.
Thank you.
And that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. And under Development Services, we have 2 items, starting with 6.4.1, report number Development 2022-74, Building the Future of Huntsville with 2022 to 2026 Economic Development Strategy. And I do have a motion that has been moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Thompson. It is recommended that committee accepts the 2022-2026 Economic Development Strategy created by Think Compass Consultants as attached to Report Development 2022-74, and further that the document be used as a reference and guiding document for future economic development plans in Huntsville. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. McDermott, who will speak to the report. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. So through you, Madam Chair, I just have a few elements I will share. So the final strategy by Think Compass Consultants is within this report. So the strategy is a roadmap to ensuring the prosperity of our region and represents the ideas of many people, businesses, and organizations across Huntsville who have shared their priorities with us during the consultation phase. So staff did meet with consultants to review the additional questions that were raised with general committee and provided additional insights and feedback as to why items were included. And the strategy that you see here today that it's attached is what has been finalized. So the strategy provides a competitive and focused plan that will guide Huntsville's economic development over the next 5 years to best diversify our economy. So within 2022, myself as the Economic Development Officer will focus on the following priorities, which is to develop partnerships and networks within the business community. That's really key and essential. Identify and develop unique value propositions known as UVP, and engage in discussions with Muskoka area municipalities to identify shared goals and objectives. So those are the priorities, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you for that, Lauren. Are there any questions with respect to this motion? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I have a quick question, if I may, and that is, Lauren, did we ever discuss the idea of putting a land acknowledgement in this document? I know we certainly do in our OP, and we decided to do that with our community services master plan. And especially given, one of the main goals in this document is to develop partnerships, and we are talking about economic development initiatives that are part of our recognition of land that we sit on. So I wondered if we had talked about it and if there's any appetite around the table to include a land acknowledgement at the beginning of this document. So my question to you, Lauren, did we discuss it, or it's just something that didn't come up? And so, maybe in fairness, I should direct it elsewhere. I don't know.
Through you, Madam Chair, we did not discuss it, but we certainly can add it if that is the appetite.
Is there any appetite around the table? A show of a thumbs up? Yes. I'm seeing a couple of 3 thumbs up. 1, 2, 4 thumbs up. So could we add that? That would be really great. And maybe in a similar spot as to where we decided in the community master plan. That would be good. Thank you for that. And that was all I had. Thank you for a good report and exciting as we move forward. So I don't see any other comments or questions. Oh, I see Crystal though. Crystal, do you need a motion with that request? No.
I was just going to clarify with Lauren if she needed one.
Okay. Lauren, do you need a motion?
I'd have to refer to Denise.
Okay. CAO Corey has come on. I've created all sorts of stuff here. CAO Corey.
If I may, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I do think because it is a document that's been presented in public forum, that a simple resolution just saying that staff be directed to incorporate the land acknowledgement statement would be very appropriate.
Okay, perfect. Do I have someone who might move that motion? Councillor Thompson, followed by Councillor Withy. And Crystal, you got that?
I did, and if you would be okay with it, I'll just pull up an amending motion here.
I'm more than okay. Okay, I've motion moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Withy. It is recommended that committee accepts 2022-2026 economic development strategy created by Think Compass Consultants as attached to report development 2022-74, and further that the document be used as a reference and guiding document for future economic development plans in Huntsville, and further that a land acknowledgement statement be included within the document. And I'm seeing CAO Corey's hand is up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If we can just state that the Town of Huntsville land acknowledgement statement be included in the document.
Okay, that will be better direction. Okay, that would be good. And Your Worship, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question. And when I read the economic development strategy, I read it prior to our deputation today about the doctor recruitment. And so I wasn't really looking for something along the healthcare line. So I'm wondering, Lauren, without putting you in the spot, does it address any goals as far as this healthcare or I know it has a goal about business I know there's a stated goal about business partnerships and attractions and things like that, but does it talk about medical anywhere?
Thank you for that question, Lauren.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. So there is definitely items within it that would include investment attraction. So there is also one specifically for moving here, which could address those concerns. If you just allow me to find it, it's to develop a resident attraction strategy, which is 2.2. So potentially that would have impact into what you were looking for in recruitment of physicians. And I could say that there would probably be additional investment attraction if you allowed me to review the document for specifics itself. But
yeah, I just think it's, with this being a brand new document, and if we're going to support the recruitment of doctors to our area, that it's certainly going to be a good vehicle to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Lauren, no reference at all to the health sector at all. I can't remember. It's funny. I looked at it yesterday too. So
through you, Madam Chair, there is an item 1.4, development of a business retention and expansion program. So you could have that as part of it. And then within the actual analysis of unique value propositions and trying to identify what sectors we would potentially want to move into, that could be something that would be identified if the healthcare was an item that we were potentially looking to expand into. So there are items that do address it, but not specifically to healthcare.
All right, thank you for that. And I'm going to Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thanks, Deputy Mayor Alcock. Yeah, I think this is important to include this in this particular document for sure, the healthcare part of it. And the reason I say that is when Councillor Stone and I had gone through the process of talking to some of our potential doctors that are here on locum, one of the things that we found, this was pretty universal, and we see the same kind of a problem when we're recruiting, senior staff at district or the town of Huntsville or any of our senior positions. But getting the future doctor here is one thing, but almost invariably there was a situation where they had a partner, and if the partner was also in a professional category, fitting that partner into the situation to prove to be a problem. So maybe going through this, including this into the economic development program with Lauren, is maybe the route to go, and maybe that would help mitigate that particular situation. So yeah, I think this is a good move, Your Worship. Good move on your part to include that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, as I recall, there was definitely the reference to the need to try and find roles or whatever, working with partners. I do recall seeing that in the report. Lauren?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Also, item 3.3, it's partnerships for workforce training and development programs. So that would also address what you're looking at. And I know from a regional perspective that one of the items is about collaboration with local area municipalities. And that's something that we're working together as on a regional level. So it's like labor and workforce attraction is an item that's identified. So these items do develop, are on the agenda to be developed. It might just not specifically call out hospitals.
Okay, thank you. Kirsten, Director Maxwell has her video on, which means welcome.
Thank you, Chair Alcock. Lauren did just actually mention what I was going to mention, that the ECDEV strategy has provided us the framework to move forward.
Right.
But those specific items that the municipality feels are of most import would be things that we would then develop more fully, so that obviously now healthcare there's an opportunity to do something, and so we can work on that. And that's why the strategy doesn't go into specifics everywhere, but gives us the opportunity to determine as we move forward where the best value is for us to invest our resources. So
good. I certainly see it provides the framework, and just as Lauren's been doing, it's slotting these various things in the different goals and objectives, and so that's cool. I think that works really well. Did that respond to your initial interest, Mayor Terziano? Yes. Okay. All right, I think that that's been a really good discussion. So I'm not seeing any other questions or comments. So I will ask the question. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you for that. I have to go back to the next one. The next item is report number development 2022-76, More Homes for Everyone Act 2022. And I'm going to, once I read the motion, I'm turning it over to Kirsten, and I do have a motion moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Mayor Terziano. It is recommended that report development 2022-76 be forwarded to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing in response to the request for comments on the More Homes for Everyone Act on behalf of the town of Huntsville. Over to you, Kirsten.
thank you, Chair Alcock. Sorry, I'll let Crystal has a question, I think.
Oh, Crystal, what did I do?
My apologies, Chair Alcock. I believe you just called the question on the amendment, so on the previous matter. So I just need you to call the question on the main motion as amended.
Oh, I did. You're right. Okay. Can I just say, I'm all those in favor of the main motion as amended on the previous item? Did that do it?
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks. Thank you. I do that periodically, actually more often than not. There we go. Sorry. Okay. Back to you, Kirsten.
Thank you, Chair Alcock. I have to say, I think this is the earliest Development Services has been before General Committee in a few months, and it was almost morning when I started, so that's amazing. This report is pretty self-explanatory. The province has introduced amendments to existing legislation that they were providing a comment period up until April 29th. And so we went through and identified the areas that are of most significance to the municipality. Specifically in regards to the Planning Act and the Development Charges Act. I would note there was an interesting benchmarking exercise that the province went through to identify where they thought they should be investing their resources and what amendments they should be making when it came to housing overall in Ontario. And the firm that they engaged to do that, the Building Industry and Land Development Association, had some really interesting statistics. And I thought it was significant that based on those statistics, they were saying that the number of new houses per year that are being created should have an equivalent amount of planning staff. And for Huntsville, that would equate to 16.7 people in the planning department based on the last few years of applications, which I found very interesting. But basically what the proposals are that they've recommended to change. One includes refunding application fees if a municipality isn't moving ahead with different types of applications quickly enough, which would be zoning amendments, site plan amendments, or site plan applications and official plan amendments. Unfortunately, since this report was written, the province has actually given royal assent to the changes to the Planning Act. So they came into effect, or the royal assent was granted on April 14th, even though the commenting window is open until the end of the month. So from that perspective, the refund requirements come into effect as of January 1st next year, and the delegation of authority for site plan applications come into effect as of July 1st. So Huntsville particularly won't affect us as greatly as other municipalities because we are transitioning to the community planning permit process. So we won't be doing site plan agreements anymore. And our official plan amendments will be few and far between because we don't do them very often. It would be zoning amendments that we would have to keep an eye on to see just what that potential impact may be to the municipality from a financial perspective. Because as committee is well aware, the zoning amendment portion of the new community planning permit process are the more significant developments, and they would likely also equate to applications that would involve different studies that might need reviewed, which would extend the timeline somewhat if it was for a new subdivision, let's say, in coordination with the subdivision application. So some of those changes, unfortunately, are already in effect, and it's quite frustrating. Ultimately, the province has jumped ahead, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Thanks for that, Kirsten. Most interesting. I wasn't aware that they had passed that. That's bizarro. And thanks for your report. It was interesting for sure. And I noticed Mayor Terziano has her hand up.
Thanks, Madam Deputy Mayor. Kirsten, thanks for putting this together. And it's a shame that they moved ahead prior to getting the comments. But, you know, following their whole rationale, I've got to say, I think the province, this Bill 109, it might address some issues in the bigger cities, but I don't think it has paid any attention whatsoever to municipalities such as our size. And that's a shame because I think we've even made different comments to them in the past and they just don't listen. I don't think Bill 109 is going to do anything for our municipality or for getting more homes in Huntsville, but so be it.
I totally concur with what you just said. I think that this is yet again another bill that is very GTA centric and really does disregard for more rural or small towns and a good chunk of our province. But and on that point, last night I was going to ask the question, but I'll ask it today. And I think you alluded to it, that the fact that we're doing the community planning permit system kind of bodes well for us in the sense that our timelines will be already better. hopefully. So it does respond well to this new legislation.
Absolutely. And the changes that they're proposing don't make any changes to anything to do with the community planning permit system. So it's interesting that that system is outside of all of these amendments that they're making.
Right.
I'm assuming it's because it's not well used in the municipality. So
it's great. Okay, thanks, Kirsten, for that. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I did read the motion, and all those in favor? That carries. Interesting. So we're sending it to them with our comments, even though they've proceeded. We need to send them anyway. Good.
absolutely.
Excellent. Thanks, Kirsten. Much appreciated. So with that, I turn it back over to Mayor Terziano.
Thank you. Okay, Council, we've got 3 items under new business and a quick closed session. Is Council happy to push through, or does anybody want to break? No break? We'll push through. Okay, then. Under new business, the Muskoka Algonquin Healthcare, actually, I think it's the Algonquin Family Health Team's request for a physician attraction brochure. I think we have probably something prepared. Crystal, do we have a motion prepared for this?
We do, and I would be happy to pull it up.
Okay, we'll have a look at that first, and then we'll have discussion. So moved by Councillor Stone, and I'm going to pick a seconder as Councillor Thompson. Whereas committee acknowledges the significance of physicians within our community, and whereas the increasing growth and projected physician retirements, it is of great importance to increase physician numbers and prepare for retirements today. Therefore, it is recommended that the staff be directed to work with the Muskoka and Area Ontario Health Team and the Algonquin Family Health Team on a physician recruitment initiative for the town of Huntsville, which may include in-kind support from our marketing department. And further, that Councillor Stone and the CAO participate on the physician recruitment working group as representatives of the town of Huntsville. Discussion, comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the resolution? That carries unanimously. And our next item, the Huntsville Festival of the Arts, waiving of park permit fees. And Crystal, I'm guessing you have something prepared for that as well.
I do, just one moment. My apologies, my word just froze, but I had it back now, so I'll pull it up.
Okay. Okay, so I need a mover and seconder, and I'm gonna Deputy Mayor Alcock and Councillor Weeb. It is recommended that committee support in principle the Huntsville Festival of the Arts Summer 2022 activity plan, and further that staff be directed to work with the Huntsville Festival of the Arts to enter into any agreements required to the satisfaction of the Director of Community Services, and further that committee approve the following group, a group of 7 canoe mural project in Rivermill Park from June 1 to October 1, 2022, live painting in Rivermill Park from June 21, I don't think it's June 16th, maybe June 26th, 2022 from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. Karine's Welly Garden from June 1st to October 1st, 2022, and the Piano and Civic Square for the summer season. And further that all applicable fees as per the fees and charges bylaw be waived. Boy, I can't even talk anymore. Okay, questions, comments? All in favor? And that carries. And the final item, the Muskoka North Good Food Co-op placement of containers. And Crystal, I'm guessing you're efficient enough to have that one prepared for us as well. I need a mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Alcott. Councillor Weed. It is recommended that staff be directed to work with the Muskoka North Good Food Co-op to identify potential and mutually agreeable town lands available for lease for the placement of one self-contained growing unit and one food processing marketplace unit, and further that staff be directed to report back to committee with potential locations and draft lease agreement. Thank you, Crystal. Comments, questions? Councillor Withey.
Thank you, Worship. I guess my question would be about the wording of this motion, in that are we committing to giving them property, and what happens if there is an acceptable property? Does that sort of commit us to unacceptable property, or I'm not quite sure. It almost seems like this is a little, I mean, I get the principle of this, but I almost feel like we should identify property.
Well, I think the purpose of this motion is to have staff work to see if there is any property. That identified property would be brought back if we can even identify any. So this is just a kind of a fact-finding mission.
Right, as long as it doesn't commit us to putting them anywhere if we can't find anything.
No.
Okay.
This is for staff to do the work and come back.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Weed, you're good then?
Mayor Terziano, I was thinking along the same lines. And as you heard in the presentation, I think there's a desire to expand this into a 40 sort of square. So I think we need to be cognizant of that and not be committed to anything, because I'm certainly not there yet. So thanks.
And I know staff is aware of that, and I know they've already been having some preliminary meetings, and it'll just be, and I mean, there's no guarantee that we have anything that's going to be suitable, but we'll do the footwork and find out. All in favor of the resolution? And that carries. And with that, council, we are going into closed session. So moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Weeb. It is recommended that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public, commencing now at 12:13 p.m. for the purpose of considering the following matter under the Municipal Act, Section 239(2), proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, confidential report, Corp 2022-14. All in favor?
Excuse me, Mayor Terziano, I was wondering about under general information. I just had a question, if that's possible, before we go there.
Okay, just before I call that question, then go ahead.
I was wondering if there was any progress on the Clark Lake owner initiative that could be reported to us. Just a question on where that's at.
Madam CAO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So that is a matter that our manager of parks was dealing with. So I'm really hoping that Director Ikivi can provide us with an update on the status. Thank you.
Mayor Terziano, Council, right now I don't have too much of an update to provide. I did reach out to Councillor Armour to discuss that. It's the process is a slow moving process in terms of the application, and we're just looking at what all the application requirements from the part of the municipality is in moving that forward.
Is that satisfactory, Councillor Withey?
Thanks. Okay. I thought the process was not that onerous, but as it was presented to us, like it was like a phone call, but I'll take what you give me. Thanks.
Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. And yeah, further to Councillor Withey's comments, I think we were probably thinking that it was a fairly routine and slam dunk kind of process, but I've been led to believe that it's much more involved than that. So This is maybe a situation that will not be resolved in a quick matter. And if Tarmo or Director Ukivi has more to comment on that, I'd welcome that as well. But I think maybe we were thinking it was maybe something we could deal with on a quick matter, but maybe not.
Through you, Mayor Terziano, to Councillor Withley and Thompson, there are parts of this process that I was up to speed on and other parts that I am not at this point. I have a communication coming out to council shortly, communicating the absence of our parks manager who was on this portfolio and we have no contact with at this point in time. So it's just up to me now to dig through everything and make sure that the process is followed, and that there is an application process that I was informed that the municipality has to enter into. It's not just simply a phone call.
Okay. I read the resolution to go into closed session. All in favor? That carries, and we have to change our Zoom locations. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just, let's see, here comes Councillor Fitzgerald. Okay, I have a resolution moved by Councillor Withey, seconded by Deputy Mayor Alcock. It is recommended that a bylaw declaring that a portion of town-owned property ID 172 pin 48088 0281, part of lot 14, north of Main Street, Plan 1, Huntsville, being Part 2 on 35R 21 445 as surplus to the municipal needs, and that the property be sold to the abutting landowner, CCB Holdings Inc., as outlined in Confidential Report Corp 2022-14. And further, that public notice be provided as per the provision of notice policy, and further that the mayor and clerk are authorized to execute all documents necessary to finalize the sale of said town-owned property. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And that carries. And I have a resolution moved by Councillor Weeb and seconded by Councillor Stone. It is recommended that we do now adjourn at 12:26 p.m. All in favor? And that carries. And that wasn't too bad of a general meeting. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week.